Well, I see 7 o'clock on the clock behind us, as well as on my phone, so I will ask you all to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Unaccustomed as I am to sitting in this seat, I will do my best. First thing we've got is a Planning and Zoning Administrator's Report.
I have nothing tonight, Acting Chair. I'm about to go Miss Chair. So, nothing tonight from me, but I would recommend that you seat our alternates into voting positions.
See, that's why I've got you here. I'm going to seat our new member, Maureen, and Nelson, our senior member of many, many years, as voting members tonight, at least until Paul gets here. And I will remind people that if you would have pagers, you have cell phones, turn them off, please, so that they're not ringing in the background. Mine is off, so we should be all set. All right, we'll go on to Article number 3, which is KTK Realty Trust, LLC, applicant owners. It's a continued review for acceptance and consideration of final approval for a site plan to operate a trailer suspension and repair business. The parcel is located at 20 Star Drive in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax map 3D-1, lot 012, case Planning Board 2021-42. This item is continued from the December 7th and the January 18th Planning Board meeting. I'm going to ask initially that the staff recommends that the board vote to accept the application as complete. Somebody wants to do that?
So moved.
Madam Chairman, I'm a little concerned that we're accepting it as complete based on what we've received so far. We have gotten, as late as today, new information, which I haven't even read yet. And we had decided previously that we weren't complete, and I think these letters that we've received in the interim here have indicated that there's some significant questions, and I would like to hear more about that before I accepted it as complete. So I won't be voting in favor of that motion.
Can we, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, perhaps it makes more sense to allow the applicant to come up and at least start the presentation portion of it, because the applicant was last before the board December 7th. The plans at that time were in a far less complete state than they are now. As far as staff is concerned, all of our staff concerns have been addressed with the plan set, so I think staff's position is it makes sense for them to present the application, get the general overview,
Okay.
accept it as complete. After that, entertain questions from the board, and then open the public hearing. Understanding that there's significant volume of information that was submitted by one of the abutters to the project, staff's recommendation would be to continue the hearing after all of that, to allow yourselves significant time to go through all that information, and then come back in after you've had the chance to do that.
I think that's a wise move. So I will invite the applicant to come up and present their case. Are they here tonight?
Don't see anybody standing up.
SFC. Anybody, SFC Engineering, or anybody here yet? No?
Anyone here from KTK Realty?
So they did warn me ahead of time. They had a couple of different meetings, but I was told somebody else would try to cover this. Apparently that's not the case. So given that, I would suggest we table it till later in the agenda to allow them time to show up and move on to the next hearing.
I have no problem accepting a motion to do that.
So moved.
Thank you, Nelson. Second? Second, Barbara, thank you. All those in favor of tabling to later in the agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed or abstaining? We've got a 5-0-0. All right, we're gonna go on to the next item on the agenda. Kevin, you're on. This is a John Flatley Company, owner, applicant owner. Continued review for acceptance and consideration of final approval for a site plan to construct two 48-unit apartment buildings in addition to the existing 240 units, in accordance with the most recently amended Flatley mixed-use conditional use permit. The parcel is located at 5 Gilbert Crossing in the I-1 Industrial, Aquifer Conservation and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts, and Wellhead Protection Area. Tax map 6E, lot 003-07, case number Planning Board 2022-07, early in the year. This item is continued from the January 18th Planning Board meeting. Kevin, I'm going to give you the floor.
Is this working?
Yes.
Yes.
It is. For the record, my name is Kevin Walker with the John Flatley Company. We've had this application in front of the board for a bit now. The proposal is for 2 additional apartment buildings out at Gilbert Crossing. I want to give you just a brief overview of what we have out there, what we're looking to do, and where we are with the permitting as it stands to date. I'm sure you recall Gilbert Crossing consisted of 5 buildings. All 5 of those buildings are currently built. The 5 residential building site plan was approved back in 2015. We were most recently in front of the board proposing the 2 additional buildings located in those 2 spots there, one across from the clubhouse and another down at the end of the drive. A few months ago, we received the approval through the master plan, and at this point, we're at site plan process with all of you. So these 2 different sites, they're basically 2 different sites completely, as they're separated by probably about 1,500 feet. The amount of work required out here is minimal. Between the time that we had these first 5 buildings approved and these buildings that we're proposing, the parking in your regulations has been reduced quite a bit. So because of that, we have ample parking out here. For the most part, we did have to add a few spaces strictly as it relates to the location of the buildings. For instance, the building up front, we added some parking in the front, a few spaces on the side, and our typical 10-stall garage. And over to the east, same thing. In this case, we just added maybe 4 spots in the front, some parking along the side, and another 10-stall garage. Before I get into the drainage and traffic and all that good stuff, I just want to give you an update on a couple things that was a concern of the board a few months ago. The question came up with the infiltration, because this was originally designed with infiltration. Since then, DES has kind of changed how they wanted to do things, so we were asked to go to DES. Is infiltration acceptable or not? And we did receive an email which was forwarded to the planning department from DES saying, yes, we can do infiltration out here. And I believe also Robert checked in just to clarify it and received a similar email. I'm sure he could speak on that if the board has any questions. So as far as the drainage design, we're good to go with what was originally proposed with the infiltration. As far as modifications to the drainage, I'll start with this building here. We're calling it Building 6. What we have there is obviously a single building, and behind that building, you remember we had a berm. It was a big, I think it was 7-8 feet. So we're basically taking that berm, we're sliding it back. We're going to give that building a 20-foot clear backyard. We'll have landscaping in front of the building, as is typical. And the drainage that's involved, and I'll flip the sheet to show you. So here's what we're calling Building 6 up towards the front. The clubhouse.
Kevin, what page are you on?
This is sheet 9.
Thank you.
Yes. So you can see we've got a flat area behind the building. That'll give about a 20 to 25 foot backyard for the residents. And behind that we have a swale with little direct runoff towards the east, towards Building 2. And eventually it will outlet towards the existing detention basin, which is located right here behind Building 3. So Building 3, we're going to excavate the bottom down about 6 inches, and that provides enough capacity and infiltration to meet the regulations of DES. So not a lot of work really needs to be done there. The next area should be sheet 10. It is sheet 10 if anyone's looking. And that is that's what we're calling Building 7. Building 7, obviously located at the end of the parking lot it was originally built. We're adding about 4 spaces in this area here, and additional parking and a 10-stall garage to the building south. And the existing detention basin is located in this area here. And the only change we need to make there is we're going to do an excavation in there of about a foot, foot and a half, and we're going to add a second forebay for solids removal, that type of thing. And basically let it just kind of grow back in and let it treat the runoff as it's been treating the runoff for the past 5 years.
Okay.
That essentially is really it. We're going to adjust a road for the access down to the detention basin. There'll be easy access to the basin up at the front. Touch on a couple other things. I don't really think there's much there. Yeah, that's really about it. Just on the portion on building, I guess we're calling it Building 7, we've got basically an access roadway that comes down to the detention basin in the back, and we're going to have a retaining wall there so we don't grade down into the slope and into the buffer of the stream. And that's really pretty much it. We're dealing with DOT at this point. DOT is going to ask us, or has asked us, for a short right-hand turn lane off of DW into the site. Doesn't appear necessary, but they go based on traffic counts, period, and this trips it by, 2 or 3 traffic counts. And it's not based on this development. It's based on the traffic counts on DW Highway that they took most recently. They actually advised us that maybe we should take them another day, see if we don't trip it.
I don't see, I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, so it's part of the overall, and I don't want to get into the whole site, I want to stay on this, but we're going to be doing a right turn lane here.
Okay.
We're going to be doing a right-hand turn lane for the roadway that's eventually going to go around the back of Saint-Gobain.
Okay.
And we're doing a right-hand turn lane for the flex.
And what about traffic analysis?
So the traffic analysis has been updated. Again, it was in an overall form. So Vanass is pulling the apartment portion out, and they said they'd probably have that next week, so we'll submit that to
Okay.
the planning department next week, and it
Okay.
should be pretty straightforward.
Question from the board. Nelson?
Yes, 2 things. In the original plan, we had set aside some areas where we could grow the parking area if needed in the future. Is that still on here, or is there more being added to that, or how are we handling that now?
So that area originally was actually behind Building 5.
Yes.
So we're not going to be using that. There's too many parking spaces as it stands out here based on the current zoning regulations. Again, those regulations changed in between when we started this and what we're doing. I think even for Building 5 that was done last. So there's ample parking. We still have more than what's required.
Okay, I'm not so interested in what's required, it's what you need when you get everybody moved in there and discover you needed more space. That was the idea of it, yeah.
So I actually spoke with our leasing agent and property manager at this site this morning, because I wanted to get a feel on, are there any issues with traffic or parking or anything like that? And I was more interested on the traffic, how they're having trouble getting out in the morning or getting in the afternoon. There hasn't been a single complaint, he said, from day one. So they're getting out of the site easy enough, they're getting into the site easy enough. There've been no issues with parking. So there's ample parking here. I think before you required like 2.2 or 2.25 spaces per unit. We typically try to do between 1.6 and 1.8, maybe a little over 1.8, and we're a little, I think we're around 1.7 something on this. And because we only have 1 and 2 bedroom units, it's worked out good.
Yeah, but do you have a space set aside, if you need it, to add parking? That'd be my question.
Oh, if we needed to add parking?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's tons of room out here.
okay.
There's all sorts of room we could put parking if it was necessary.
There was parking, there was an area reserved on the plans that we approved finally, right?
The first set of plans we had,
Yeah,
the extra parking was behind building 5.
yes.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
It's reserved if we needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't changed.
Okay,
If
that's
we- if
what
we-
I was trying to find out.
Gotcha, yeah, it's still there. And now that this is fully developed, there are actually other places we could probably put parking without having to get behind building 5
Yeah.
if
But the
If it happens to
existing
be needed.
proposed potential is still there,
yes.
in answer to
That's what I wanted
Nelson's
to-
question. Yes, thank you.
Kind of took the long route on that, sorry.
Yep.
That's all right.
Any other questions?
One more question, and it is, these are still rentals? Everything is a rental in here, is that correct?
Yes, everything's rental.
Yep.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Barb?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, we're still waiting on a report on traffic?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Correct.
Yeah, there was a-
And DOT has gave you the final, was that the final decision on their part as far as putting in a right-hand turn lane?
That's their direction. We've just prepared the plan. They have to approve the plan, but other than that.
Okay, so they haven't approved the plan yet, and they're still waiting for that final report as well?
Well, we're waiting for DOT approval to say, put in this lane.
You submitted it to DOT
Yes,
and are just waiting for their approval for the turn lanes.
that's all we're doing.
That's it. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not for me, no.
Maybe more so a comment. I know that the abutters in the past have had a huge issue with the, the development encroaching on the boundary and whatnot, and you guys not leaving a buffer so much. Looks like you're awful close there. You said you moved a berm back. Could you tell me where you?
It was over here.
Oh, that was the one you're okay.
Yeah.
Because if I recall, didn't you guys leave a berm on the other side too,
So last time
behind 5 and whatnot, to kind of hide everything?
last time we were here, what we had talked about was using the dirt from the excess from the flex site,
Uh huh.
which we're dying to get going on,
Me too.
and put the berm. We were going to do 2 berms. We were going to do one by building 5. And the gentleman I talked to lives in a 6-E-2-33.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to put a berm in this area here, and I also, he gave me a call to go talk about this back here, and he said, I could probably see that too. So we're going to try to put a berm here, and we're also going to try to put a berm behind this garage, and if not right behind the garage, maybe in this area here, because the garage is only 1 story. It's not really visible. But to try to put some sort of screen, and if we're able to build it up, try to get a flat top on it if we can, and maybe stick some shrubbery or bushes on top of that, and hopefully that helps out.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board? Go ahead, Maureen.
Driving by, I noticed that there was like a dirt road plowed out. Is that like an emergency exit?
Yeah, so that was requested by the fire department. We
Maureen?
we tried to show that there
Make
was
sure
ample
your
room
mic is
to
on.
drive into the site, regardless, because there's no trees up front. But they did want that road in there. And that road will be adjusted at some point as we develop that portion of the site. It may attach to a future parking lot. But there will always be some sort of connection between the apartments and whatever happens in that section of the site.
So that if a lot of people needed to get out quickly, there would be two exits?
I mean, if need be, I mean, that'll be gated, because we don't think the residents are gonna want people coming from the retail area or industrial area and using that dirt road and coming into the apartment site.
Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking more of emergency. And did you say that there was gonna be another road in the back that's going to go behind St. Cobain that will lead to these apartments?
So it won't
No.
lead to these, so these
Okay.
apartments are gonna be standalone with the exception of the emergency access.
Okay.
Which will connect to, right now it's connected to DW Highway. In the future, it'll connect to a parking lot that is attached to DW Highway. But we don't plan on having a connecting road between the apartments and the non-residential areas.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? So I think we are ready to, the staff has recommended the board continue the application's acceptance and public hearing to the April 5th, 2022 Planning Board meeting, or a later date if agreeable, to allow the applicant time to submit a full traffic impact analysis. Is that correct? I will take a motion as such. Thank you, Neil.
So moved.
And
Second.
second, Nelson. Thank you very much. All those in favor of continuing? Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, opposed or abstaining? We're 5-0-0.
Question.
Sir,
We didn't ask Kevin if he was okay with the date, and we didn't. Did we just set a date, or we?
The April meeting's okay with me.
Pardon?
The
April 5th is okay?
Yeah.
Then that's
Okay.
the date.
Okay, I wanted to
Yep.
be. Okay.
All right, we're approved. Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Dan, you're up. Number 5, Daniel Lindblom, applicant, and Michelle Lindblom, owner. Review of a conditional use permit for a level 2 home occupation, proposing the purchase and sale of firearms. The parcel is located at 23 Berkeley Street in the R1 Residential by Soils and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts. Tax map 6D, lot 005, case number Planning Board 2022-11. Dan, if you would give us a little overview of what you're trying to do here.
Okay, I actually prepared something I was gonna read to you all.
That's fine. Is your mic on? Should be bright green.
Now it is.
Now it is.
Hear me
Good.
better?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding my application to purchase and sell firearms for my residence. First, I would like to make it clear I am not looking to open a storefront at my residence. Will be a by appointment only business. I will be primarily selling firearms and ammunition through the internet on Gunbroker Arms List. I have taken several steps to make sure all firearms are properly stored. I have purchased large gun safes and have a security system which includes video surveillance of the safes. I have applied through the ATF to get an FFL, which is a federal firearms license. As part of their investigation, they run criminal checks on applicants to make sure they are responsible and can legally possess firearms and ammunition. As part of their investigation, they also came to my residence and spent hours with me going over laws and the paperwork I am responsible for. The ATF agent told me that once I get the town's approval, they will issue me that license. Having a federal firearms license allows me to call the state police gun line and FBI and have them do records checks on people wanting to purchase or transfer firearms. These checks are to make sure that any person wanting to purchase a firearm from me can do so legally. They are able to determine if the person has been convicted of crimes, domestic violence, or have restraining orders against them that would prohibit them from owning firearms. In New Hampshire, private firearm sales are legal. Without an FFL, a seller doesn't have access to checks of the state police or FBI checks. That means that the seller has no way of knowing if they are selling to a person that can legally possess firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, go ahead, Neil, I have no question. Yeah.
While you're going through that, Neil, I'm going to go through staff recommendations here. They have gone through the applicant process and reviewed the requirements. And there are quite a few as far as not only home occupation, but firearms. And it appears that the applicant has complied with all the provisions, or that provisions are not applicable. So that the recommendation on the part of the board, or part of the staff, is that we grant conditional approval of the home occupation with some conditions. So I will entertain questions. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, so there's not going to be any kind of repair or anything like that? You're just going to be primarily selling?
Correct.
And that's, you said through gun broker?
Through broker, arms list, some private sales, but it'll be by appointment only. So I'm not gonna have people coming and going from my house. I don't want that at all.
Right.
This is gonna be something where if I put something like an arms list and it's posted in New Hampshire, somebody could contact me. I could make arrangements for them to come meet me at my house. If they decide they wanna purchase what I have to sell, I could do the proper checks, make sure that that person's able to possess firearms, and then sell them, the firearms.
I noticed that in the application that, I think I saw that you said that you only had the breezeway as listed as,
Correct. I'm not gonna have a big area. I'm not gonna have a storefront.
so so your gun safes and everything are in the breezeway?
My gun safes are in the basement.
And you do have the security systems in place?
Yeah, I have video cameras on there. Yeah.
Yeah, with alarm?
Not with an alarm that I get.
Okay.
So I would have to call the police.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
What about ammunitions? You said that you are gonna be selling ammunitions as well?
That kinda goes hand in hand generally with firearms.
So
I did notice that they recommended that I wouldn't have any
Yeah, you wouldn't have
ammunition.
any on site, yeah.
And, I'm a gun owner. I have my own ammunition on site.
Right,
I'm not gonna be buying, pallets of ammunition, selling them, but I'd like it to be available.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, so you did see the notes from the staff?
I did.
You, so it says the applicant should store any flammable materials in an appropriate flammable cabinet, gun safes, or
Yeah.
flammable retardant. What do you propose you're gonna be putting ammunition in there if you can't have it on site?
If I can't have any ammunition on site?
No, if you can,
Oh, I have a separate cabinet for that's flammable.
is it a safe?
It's retardant,
or
yes.
Safe or
Yeah,
is it
it's
just a
got key.
cabinet? I'm sorry, is it a safe or just a cabinet?
It's a cabinet, but I can always put it in the safe as well. There's plenty of room.
Okay. So there won't be any breakdown of cleanings or anything like that going on where you're gonna have any of the cleaning chemicals? I know you
No.
have your own for
No,
your own
other
personal
than,
use, but,
no, if I'm cleaning a gun because I purchased a gun, that would be the extent of it.
okay. And that would be for a customer? You think?
If I purchase a gun from someone that sells it to me, I'm gonna clean that
Oh,
firearm.
sure, I see. Okay, yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
not gonna offer
But you're
my
not,
cleaning services.
you're not providing cleaning services to
No,
the public?
no.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And you don't obviously have a problem with putting nice big numbers on your house so they can know where you
Oh, no,
are?
there's pretty big numbers on there now.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that just
They
sits in the list,
know
so,
where you live.
yeah.
right. Do you have a specific, like, are you gearing towards a certain kind of firearm that you're looking to sell, or is it just pretty much, it could be anything from a,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be doing any howitzers or anything like that, but, just standard firearms that somebody would carry, a rifle, handguns.
okay. Thank you. I just have a question for Robert. Robert, the recommendation is that there's no ammunition stored on,
Related to the business on site.
related to the business on site, but
Yep.
I understand the applicant's point that it kind of goes hand in hand.
So
Is that up for discussion, or is that something that we just need to stick to?
It is up for discussion. This is staff recommended conditions that have been placed on similar home occupations that the board has dealt with, and this condition has been applied to those. So we carried it forward to this.
Okay.
If this applicant wants to discuss that with the board has the free power to remove any of these suggested conditions they so choose to do.
But it doesn't prevent him from having ammunition for his own personal use.
Correct.
He's not advertising ammunition for sale, he's advertising guns for sale.
Correct.
Okay. Fair enough then.
Further questions?
Yes, I do.
Nelson?
I noticed in Robert's memo to us, he suggested as a condition that the applicant should provide documentation that the home occupation will utilize appropriate security and alarm system, and such system shall be approved by the Merrimack Police Department before use, and a copy of that shall be provided to community development.
So that would be my next step, sir.
Okay,
So-
you're aware of that, and
I
you're
am.
prepared to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I have to do this first, then the ATF will give me my FFL.
Yeah.
Then I go to the police department, they'll go ahead and they'll check
Okay.
the premises, make sure that it's abiding by all the, everything
Okay.
it needs to.
Just wanted to be sure you were in the boat, too.
And
Thank you.
that's subject to the approval is that you do that. So-
Yes.
Yeah, I would say
Yep.
that would be a condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of his recommendations.
Anything else?
Nothing else from me, thank you.
And Robert, we need a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would wish to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone who would wish to speak against this petition? Well, that makes it easy. I guess you did your job, Dan. I'll close the public hearing, and we'll entertain motions from the board.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Was it said that other people have done this, which I know they have in Merrimack, and that they do not have ammunition, but that we're looking to have ammunition for this one exception?
He's looking for, if I'm gonna be correct, and Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he's looking to have ammunition for his own personal use, but he's not providing ammunition for sale to the public. He's providing guns for sale to the public. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So
Please come to the
Dan, you need
mic.
to come up to the mic.
So, I'm not looking to go into the ammunition selling business, okay? I'm looking to sell firearms. However, I'd like to be able to provide ammunition to people that might want to buy the firearms from me. So, it's not gonna be a lot of ammunition that I'm gonna have stored at my residence. I'll have my own ammunition and maybe a couple boxes if somebody wanted to have something to go along with the firearm.
Okay, thank you. Robert?
So that would violate the condition that we have written down, because
So we need to
ammunition would be.
modify that.
Yeah, so
if we want to.
if the board wants to allow that type of use, then they would need to strike that proposed condition.
Comments? Dan, please. Go ahead, Barb.
So don't go away, Dan.
Nope, Dan, come back.
Come on down. So Dan, help me understand. So if you sell a handgun,
Mhm.
you sell the beginning or implementation, initial ammunition to go with it,
If they would like to purchase that.
and then say 6 months later, they come back to you and say, I need more ammunition. Are you going to supply that, or are you going to
Yes.
send them
That
to
would
a
be the
regular
plan.
gun store?
That would be the plan.
That would be the plan. Okay, thank you.
Of course,
So-
unless you tell me that
So
I
you
can't.
are planning on selling ammunition
Mm-hmm.
Correct,
in addition to selling firearms?
correct.
Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead, Neil.
May I? So that kind of just makes me have another question too. You had mentioned that like if you get a gun that somebody wants to sell or go through you to sell, that you'll break it down, clean it. What are your plans for test firing firearms? That would have to be off location.
That would be something I'd probably go to Manchester Firing Line and do.
I don't know that it's a probably. It would have to be.
Okay.
Like
That's
you
fine.
wouldn't be able to test fire on
No, I certainly would
On
not be
site.
test firing it at my residence, no.
Okay,
I wouldn't be doing it across the street in the woods. I would be
Right.
test firing something in an appropriate place.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the ammunition thing goes, I kind of see where the problem is with that. Typically, the board doesn't allow that, sales from a home occupation per se. So it's, kind of puts us in a spot here where,
Well, Can I comment on that?
you may, hell, absolutely, please.
Does it typically not do that just because somebody at some point said, I'm not gonna be selling ammunition out of my house? Or was this something that, there's some type of a decision made by the board that we don't allow this?
I think it's coming more that way, yeah, that we just don't, we don't really care for having stockpiles of ammunition in somebody's home where it could be accessed by, robbery, first off.
Yeah.
I understand a gun store could get, robbed too, but, the mere fact that you said that you keep it in a cabinet, over keeping it in a complete safe.
Well, it is a
doesn't-
safe, it's just not a big floor safe and then, like I would store firearms in.
Yeah,
It's different. And if that's a determining factor, then I just won't sell ammunition, that's fine.
yeah,
But I would like to.
right.
But
and
if you're telling me that I can't, then I won't.
Yeah, no, I can understand
Yeah.
that. I was just trying to get a clear picture so we can
Sure.
make a fair determination.
And I could have that stockpile of my own ammunition
Sure.
at my house too, so.
Yeah, understood.
And one thing I could say, okay, well, it's just my ammunition,
Right.
which I have plenty of ammunition for what I need it for.
Mhm.
Or, I could store it somewhere else and then it becomes, ammunition for the business.
Yep.
I'd- You tell me what you want me to do with it.
No,
Yeah.
hang on, Maureen?
I'm just thinking, that because that's happening in my neighborhood right now, so I'm pretty aware of this. Just that the difference is that you're now selling to somebody who's leaving with a loaded gun, and even though a potential loaded gun, where, you just don't know nowadays, even though you may do a background check, you just don't know what people are, and it's in a neighborhood. And I feel like the chances are probably small, but, it's the difference between purchasing a gun that you really can't use, right, and leaving the neighborhood compared to purchasing a gun that could be loaded and leaving the neighborhood. That's all I'm thinking of.
That's a fair, I think that's good.
Nelson?
Well, I was going to suggest something different, but I liked what I heard Maureen suggesting, and I'd be concerned about people leaving with a loaded gun. That's something that you can't do normally, so we don't normally allow that. Yeah. Barbara, did you?
Barb?
Oh.
Yeah, you don't usually walk around with a loaded gun unless you get licensed to carry.
It's not what the state
So-
says anymore.
No.
I would say that they're not gonna walk around after purchasing it because you wanna test fire it first before you
Yeah.
begin to play with ammunition and what it's doing, so.
Well, you can walk around with a loaded weapon.
Exactly, but, yeah.
Whether you're comfortable with it or not.
That's true,
Legally, you
that's
can do
true.
it,
You
just to
can.
clarify that.
That's not my problem.
Right.
I'm just qualifying that usually when a person buys a new weapon, they usually don't load it up at the site where they're purchasing it. They take it out, bring it to a range, load it, and then test fire it because you want to know how it's going to react. Am I correct? Or are
If I
you
go to a
thinking,
gun shop
are you
right now-
thinking they're going to like load it on site
No,
before they get to the car?
I've purchased a ton of guns, and I've never loaded a gun inside of a store, ever.
So what
In
I'm
fact-
hearing is the board
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
comfortable with the sale of ammunition.
Okay, then I won't sell ammunition from the house, that's fine.
Okay.
So we're gonna leave that condition
Sure.
on that. Okay.
I hope you realize I brought it up to talk about it and see if, there was, what the nuances of it were, and you can see that we're just not comfortable with that, so.
People aren't comfortable with firearms, I get it,
Some people aren't.
so.
Okay. All right. Anything further?
No?
Are we still in public hearing? No. Public hearing is closed. Okay.
Close the public hearing, and I will make a motion,
Okay.
Madam Chairman, to approve the, let me get the wording right here from, let me see. Well,
Approve the conditional use permit?
approve the conditional use permit with the conditions suggested by staff regarding verification to the Community Development Department that the home occupation is covered under the homeowner's insurance. And I think that's, we didn't talk about that, but the applicant shall obtain final approval from the police department, and the applicant shall provide proof that the home occupation will provide a security system. And the applicant shall provide documentation and proof that the home occupation will utilize gun safes for the storage of firearms. For the firearms related to this application.
And the subsequent conditions that were placed on that by staff regarding the ammunition
Oh, yeah,
and
that's right.
flammable materials and waste associated with it, and residences shall be easily identifiable with appropriate lettering.
Will do.
That's my
Do I have a
motion.
second? Barbara, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Are we an aye? Okay,
May I make a comment?
sure.
It does say that the board will grant conditional final approval to home occupation with the following condition, that it be completed within 6 months, or the approval shall become null and void. Could we add that to the motion?
Any problem with that, Robert?
No, that's by default. That's the
That-
point of the
that's a
conditional
given.
approval. Yep.
That's a
Yeah.
given, Neil, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we are approved,
Thank you.
500. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Number 6, Allison Roberts, applicant, and Justin Roberts, owner, review of a conditional use permit for a level 2 home occupation, proposing a nail salon. No guns involved here, just a nail salon. The parcel is located at 30 Woodward Road in the R1 Residential by Soils and Aquifer Conservation District's Tax Map 6B, Lot 085-055, case number Planning Board 2022-12.
Hello,
Introduce yourselves, please, and give us an idea what you're doing here.
my name is Allison Roberts. I've been a licensed nail technician for the last 12 years about now. I'm looking to do business from my home. In the time of COVID, not knowing when schools are closed and everything like that, women are more interested in having services done in the privacy of a small studio where they're not exposed to large groups of people. As a mother, I would like to work from home so that way I can stay home and be with my children if the schools are closed for COVID or if they're sick, or and if for any reason that I need to be home with them, I won't have to stop working because providing for my children is the most important. So we're just looking to have a small salon in my home. I will have no other employees. I am a licensed nail technician. Like I said, I will be the only one providing services. So I and one other person in the home occupancy at a time. Just very small. I have plenty of off-road parking. I have a very large driveway. I have a small designated bathroom for the customers. They won't be entering into the dwelling at all. They have their own separate space to use in the salon.
And I indicate that staff has reviewed this and determined that the application meets the guidelines and has no additional
Conditions?
conditions on that. So, questions from the board?
No questions. I'm all set with this.
I'll open a public hearing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Neil.
I just have a question. First off, thank you for providing all the photos and the layout of the inside. That certainly helps. I did have a question about the outside lighting. Well, more so operation of, like the hours of operation. You know, during the winter, it gets dark earlier and whatnot, and I was just hoping, it's hard to see if that is a light on the side of the
Yes.
driveway side.
We have a light on the outside right next to the double doors that would enter into the business.
Okay. That's pretty much, I just wanna make sure that it's well lit for your customers to come in and
Yeah,
out.
and normal
whatnot.
operation hours 9 to 5. You know, I take my first customer as soon as my kids get off. and off to school, and then take my last customer right before they get home off the bus, or one right after dinner. I'm not doing any business late in the evening or anything like that. No early hours of operation.
Well, but in the winter, it's dark at 4.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
dark
we
before
have,
it-
yeah, we've done outside
So
lighting.
as long as you've got sufficient lighting.
And I suspect you'll keep the driveway clear for them and whatnot, and,
Oh, yes.
yeah. One other thing, I believe it was you that I saw, there will be no employees that live outside the home. Do you have anyone else that'll be, are you the only employee?
No, I will be the only employee doing
Oh,
business
okay.
in the salon, yes.
Okay.
It's a small studio, just I and one other person, that's for my comfort, and customers as well are looking for that kind of,
Dad is not a nail tech.
The other person is not a nail tech.
oh, no.
And the other person is the client.
No, the client, yeah, no, the
I'm talking
client.
about
I
that.
and a client. No,
Oh,
he is just
I'm-
he's the
yeah.
homeowner.
He's-
the one
he's
that will
doing the
be
shoveling.
the snow
Yeah.
removal?
Yes, I'm snow removal and
He's the
maintenance.
groundskeeper, make sure everything is nice and tidy.
That's all, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against this proposal? Everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Nelson?
I will move we approve with the conditions provided by the staff.
Of which there are none.
Of which there are none. Okay.
Second by Neil. All those in favor of approval? Aye, aye, aye. Everybody aye. 500. Thank you very much. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, it was easier than you thought it was gonna be.
Thank you so much.
Are we good? All right, we are down to Nikolai and Tanya Gapanoff. Is that correct? Review of conditional use permit for a contractor yard allowed per a variance granted by the ZBA as a home occupation. The parcel is located at 109 Bedford Road in the R1 Residential by Soils and Aquifer Conservation Districts, tax map 6C, lot 194, case number Planning Board 2022-13. Good evening. Introduce yourselves, please, and give us an idea what you're doing here.
I'm Tanya Gapanoff.
I'm Nick Gapanoff.
Are the mics on?
Yeah, they're on.
Make sure they're close to
Okay.
you. when
I'm
you're
Nick
speaking.
Gapanoff. This is my wife, Tanya Gapanoff.
My husband runs a small one-man concrete business where he goes to clients' homes to do concrete things like patios and pool decks and walkways at the client's home. And so we're just looking for a home occupation, I guess, so that we can have less than 500 square feet in a permitted shed of stuff we may need for the business.
Okay, so-
Questions? Neil?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No,
Nelson?
I didn't hear the last thing you said.
So, we're still trying to figure out like why we're here also. I guess we need a approval, like we got the variance already, but we need approval to have less than 500 square feet up to 500 square feet in our permitted shed of stuff related to the business. As a home occupation, even though there's no business going on at our residence at all. It's
Yeah.
off-site at the client's house. But the stuff in our shed, I guess, is named as a contractor's yard, which I'm still confused about, but that's what I guess we're looking for approval for.
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, it's very
Okay.
confusing.
Thank you. Okay, as I understand it, you have this equipment already, which you use as part of your business, and you're storing it all in this shed or garage in the backyard that we see a picture of? Is that right?
Yes. There's stuff related to the business in the shed that we have.
And everything goes inside?
Yes.
It's not stored outdoors?
No.
Okay. And, okay, I'm satisfied then. I guess I have no problem with this, but
Robert, do we have anything further on this?
Not at this time. Basically, just by way of summary, it was, This originated as a service request last summer. The situation back then was much different than it is now,
Yep.
where the business was larger scale. The applicant has done a great job toning that down so it could comply, so they could get a variance to do this business as a home occupation. That variance was granted, and they have demonstrated in their application that they can comply with the home occupation criteria to be able to run the business.
Yeah,
So-
I remember the,
Yep, we're just
The
here at this
difference,
point now
it's a
for that
big
final,
difference
the
from what
planning
you
board
did have,
approval,
so
so they
yes.
can operate the business.
all right, no further questions from the board. I'll open a public hearing. Anyone wanting to speak in favor of this? Anyone want to speak against it? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion from the board. Nelson?
Madam Chairman, I will make a motion to approve this application with the conditions, if there are any, from the
There are
staff.
There are no conditions.
I didn't see any,
No,
but
so, second?
Second.
Thank you, Barb. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
It's 500. You're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do we got now? Chris Ross. I don't see Chris Ross here.
He's
That
asked-
applicant has requested a continuance. You have a letter in your
Oh,
packet.
okay, I missed
Yeah.
that. Sorry, you caught me unawares because I'm sitting here and I wasn't expecting to be so. Okay. So do we need to continue this? Move to continue it?
Yeah, the applicant is requesting a continuance of 2 weeks out.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to do so.
I make a motion that, so moved.
Thank you, Neil. Second, Nelson? Ladies, you on board?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
500. We're going to continue to, the date is
March 15th.
March 15th. We good with that? Okay. And, God, we're getting out of here early, and I thought we were.
Not quite.
Discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern. Anybody have anything?
Go back and go to the application. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. KTK Realty Trust. Anybody here? All good. Come on aboard. Forgot all about you guys. Wishful thinking, I guess.
I'll do my best not to keep us here late.
That's okay.
Mrs. Chairwoman, members of the board, my name is David Moran. I'm here representing KTK. I actually did not intend to give you any presentation tonight. That was supposed to be handled by my engineer, who had a conflict and then asked for our item to be changed to the last. But again, in the interest of not delaying, I certainly can start the presentation, and he'll be here shortly. He texted me, he's on his way.
So you do a brief overview for us?
I could certainly do an overview for you,
Okay,
and then when George comes here, he can talk directly to the plan.
okay.
All right, I don't believe you were at any of our previous meetings, but my client purchased this property at the end of June last year. And at that time, we had approached the board for a change of use, and that is what we're here again today for, is to talk about a change of use of the property. It is an allowed use. It would be for the purpose of tractor-trailer maintenance. It is appropriate in size, and certainly has been working as far as the applicant is concerned. At that time, we were approved for site plan waiver, but that approval was appealed. So we're back here again with a completed site plan that should comply or will comply with all of the Merrimack, Town of Merrimack requirements. And we are certainly asking for several waivers, okay, to the full site plan review. So we're prepared to present that site plan tonight, to talk about the waivers we're requesting, which I believe are minor, and to see if we can get your approval for a change of use for this property to allow us to continue, let's say, implementing this business. Obviously, the appeal of the prior decision caused the town to freeze all of any other actions that we can take with the town. So we're basically in a hold position, waiting to get site plan approval. So that's a bit of the history and basically why we're here. I believe you all received the package 3 weeks ago that contained the new site plan. My understanding is in the letter to the board that the staff did believe that we met all the site plan presentation conditions. So we would like to review our waivers that we're requesting and also take any comments that you have on the plan. Again, I'll reserve the answers to those comments to George when he arrives.
Okay.
But certainly I can get into a discussion about the waivers we're requesting, because that has all been documented, and I have a copy of it.
Robert, you want to give us a community development view of this?
Yeah, I mean, that we basically would concur. So our recommendation would be to allow the applicant to make a presentation. We have no issue reviewing the waivers. We feel that that's something that can happen, as well as accepting the application as complete first and foremost. Board can certainly ask any questions, though it seems the engineer might be better suited to answer those. Then we'd recommend the public hearing be open to allow the abutters to make comment, and then probably continue after that due to the abutter having submitted a lot of information that the board has not had a chance to fully absorb.
Okay. So we address waivers initially?
I would recommend acceptance of the application first and then go into waivers.
Okay, I will entertain a motion for that. If somebody wants to so move.
Madam Chair, I'm a little reluctant to accept this as complete. You're asking to accept it as complete, right? And I think there are issues that have been raised since our first review of this.
Mr. Nelson, my understanding of where we stand today is the same as where we stood in December, is that everything that went before us is to be disregarded. So we are basically presenting a completed site plan for review by the planning board as if it was the first time we were here. Would you concur, Robert?
Everything from last summer has to be disregarded. So
That's
when we were
correct.
here in December, we had an initial application and site plan that was presented.
That's
Staff
correct.
had a number of comments on that. The engineer has since addressed those, so staff is satisfied that the plan can be accepted as complete at tonight's meeting.
So Nelson, regardless of what may have happened this summer or what may be in process, we are asking for a unbiased review by the planning board of a site plan that we're ready to present tonight.
But I think some issues have been raised with regard to that site plan.
And Nelson, I don't know what site plan you're referring, because the site plan that we're presenting hasn't been accepted yet. So if
No,
you're
but-
referring to that site plan,
That's the
then-
one she's asking us to accept.
right, but
And
I
I'm
don't,
saying-
I haven't heard any public comments about it. As far as I'm
Well-
concerned, we submitted it to staff, and they've recommended that you accept it.
And also, we have received other information from abutters that make
But
me.
we can't deal with that.
Not
unless
yet.
w- Unless,
Sorry.
unless we accept this as conditional approval and open a public hearing. So I understand that there's been additional information received,
Yes.
and we have to deal with that, but we can't deal with that until we accept this for conditional approval
Uh,
based on staff's recommendation. Is that correct, Robert?
Acceptance as complete, not conditional approval.
I'm sorry, complete.
Yep, it's complete for review purposes. That's all you're
That's
doing.
all it is, it's just complete for review.
Right,
Okay, in that
Because-
case, I will move to accept it as
thank you.
complete for discussion purposes.
There's just that some of the information submitted by the abutter would indicate that the site plan may not even be valid.
That's correct.
So,
But that's,
that's,
we don't deal with that until after
until
we do this
okay.
step. So, are
Okay,
we good? We got a
understood.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Barbara. All approve for Conditional approval?
Right?
No.
No, for
No.
acceptance.
No, acceptance of completion.
Accepted. Yeah,
Okay, got
completion
it.
for review.
Alright.
Sorry,
Right.
guys,
It's okay.
this is not my normal seat. All right,
You're doing a good job.
yeah, well, we'll get there. All right, so at this point, engineer is not here, correct?
He is not here, he is on his way.
We got an ETA?
He's coming from Salem, New Hampshire, and he contacted me at, I believe it was 7:21. So, probably any minute now.
Okay.
But again, if, I believe we will have to read the waivers in to the record
Okay,
anyways, and there are several of them.
so can we do that?
You can, if you decide that you want more information, you can certainly defer until the engineer shows
Okay,
up.
all right,
and-
then let's do that.
Okay,
So we've
again, I'm
got-
just trying to save time for everybody.
Nope, that's fine. I'm
All right,
all
great.
for that.
I'm going to refer to the document, the submitted documents to the planning staff from last week. It talks about background and project description. And again, what I'm going to refer to is, we were here in December. We asked the board to review a plan and give us some feedback, especially on the waivers that we were requesting at that time. And then, based upon that feedback, we went back and developed a new plan that we submitted this 3 weeks ago. So the,
Do we have waiver requests in our notes?
There's a listing of them in the memo from Robert, from
I've got it,
They-
yeah.
They're listed in my memo, but also if you see the SFC letter that was provided from the applicant, they're all listed in there.
Okay,
okay. The
Right.
SFC letter.
and again, it's just, making it, the comments related to our previous plan, as well as waivers that we were requesting formally.
I'm looking for the FSC letter.
Oh, no,
Ah,
but
got
that's
it,
okay.
got it.
Believe me, it's all comments related to the previous meeting. And again, we're okay in December. We're not okay going back to June, July.
That's all right.
I know it's confusing, Neil, believe me. If you have the appropriate document, if not, I'll just read it into the record. All right?
Which document are you reading from, the SFC?
Yes, I am reading from SSC Engineering dated February 7th, addressed to Robert Price.
Got it.
Response to community development, staff
we've got
reviewed
that.
comments. Okay? And this was addressed to Mr. Price. And again, it was, as far as background and project description of the first subheader, it would be appropriate for the applicant to request of the board to determine if the existing vegetation is suitably located, sufficiently visually impervious and vigorous enough to substitute for additional landscaping requirements required by the regulations, section 3.09, subparagraph C7. And again, we have a request for determination to the board. I believe that is, as far as the physical nature of the building is concerned, it is the very last property at the end of a cul-de-sac. There's very little traffic there other than by the occupants. And,
I'm looking at a letter here with 4 waiver requests. The first one being section 3.11.
.07B,
Nope, 3.11,
I understand the
requirement
confusion
for
here.
parking.
Um,
Sorry?
If I may, there's a couple of different things. So the first part of this is the site plan regulations allow the planning board or the applicant to request of the planning board a determination that the existing vegetation on site is adequate, so they do not have to provide a full-on landscaping plan. That's not necessarily a waiver request, but it is a request that the applicant is making of you.
Come have a seat, sir.
That is Mr. Fredette, who's just walked in, the engineer.
I don't see anything on
Yeah, we're
vegetation.
looking at different documents here. Yeah.
So, on the cover sheet of the SFC letter,
Yes, this,
over here, George.
goodness, why do you're right, you have a different
February
one.
7th, right?
There's nothing there on
You're
vegetation.
right, there's a sign. Nelson's is different than mine. Can I see yours? One second.
All right, let's take
Madam
a,
Chair, can I suggest we take a 5-minute recess to let everybody
yeah,
get
we're gonna
settled?
take a 5-minute recess.
Perfect for us. Thank you.
Potty break.
Give me that, right here. And I was using this document, but you can pick it up where you want.
All right, everybody under control? I'm not sure I am, but. Did you catch your breath?
Sure, I did.
All right, we are dealing with requests for waivers. And there are some number of them, if you want to address.
So, just to back up, just to bring George up
Okay.
to speed as he walked in, what Mr. Moran just started getting into as you walked in when we discovered we had missing information in their packets was the request for the verification that the existing landscaping was acceptable. And that's where we discovered that a letter was missing in the packet, so.
Okay.
They now have your full waiver letter.
Everybody
that
has it
In
now.
the beginning portion has that landscaping request there. So now you can pick it up from that point. We can go.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being patient with my tardiness coming here. But as the planners.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm sorry, my name is George Fredette with SFC Engineering
Thank you,
Partnership.
George.
And I've been working with North Shore Trailer and Suspension. at the at the front of the letter that of our response to December planning board comments, we had a request for a determination of suitability of landscaping. And in that request, we note that the building was first constructed in 1970. Then later, an 85,000 square foot building addition was constructed about 1982. This industrial site has existed since that time with no major renovations. And it's consistent with much of what you see when you go down Star Drive. The landscaping that's on site is at the rear of the site. It's the mature trees at the rear of the site. So,
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
sure.
I'm looking at this letter, and I don't see anything regarding landscaping. Robert?
So, under the background and project description section, there's a bulleted point that says it would be appropriate for the applicant to request of the board to determine if the existing vegetation is suitably located, sufficiently visually impervious and vigorous enough to substitute for additional landscaping requirements required by the regulations, section 3.09.C.7.
Okay, that's the
Everyone
first
got
bullet
that?
under background and project.
Correct. So,
Damn it, I guess.
separate from that, they put together a formal request that he's essentially going into some information. There's a little, a 2-paragraph thing, but basically what they're asking is for that determination. The site plan regulations do allow for the planning board to determine that the existing vegetation is adequate enough where a separate landscaping plan is not required. That's what they're asking for right now.
So this, when we get into waivers and we get into the first waiver, this is actually a preliminary waiver.
It's not necessarily a waiver, it's a determination.
Determination, all right.
Yep, so that comes first, then the waiver requests, which are on that letter in front of you, will come next.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Go back to landscaping.
Well, Madam Chair, I was all done talking about landscaping.
I was trying to find the landscaping and I couldn't. so-
Sure. Just my arguments in favor of you finding that the landscaping is suitable is that this site has existed since 1970. It was modified in 1982, and now it has sat like that for more than 40 years. We're not making any major renovation to the site, and the site is typical of what you might expect in an industrial neighborhood and typical of Star Drive. The landscaping that's on the site is really at the rear of the site. It's mature trees standing at the rear. And with that, I ask you to consider that the landscaping on the site is suitable.
So we're not doing a waiver.
No, this is more comprehensive than a waiver.
Yep.
This is saying that what's there is there and that's it, that's what you get.
Yep.
And I'm not ready to go there right now, thank
Okay.
you, because we've talked about possibly having other areas landscaped, and I'm not ready to grant a waiver like that at this point in the discussion.
It's not a waiver.
Yeah, or make that determination.
We're gonna make the determination that the landscaping is acceptable as it is, and you're not ready to do that.
That's right,
Okay,
that's right.
I concur.
so where do we go from there, Robert?
Okay, so the next I would suggest would be the first waiver in the applicant's
Okay, we'll
letter.
deal with waivers. All right. And the first one is regarding the drainage.
Yes.
Respectfully, Madam Chair and Robert, and I know I'm late to the game here, but has there been an introduction of the plan and what we're doing?
Not thoroughly to the plan. Mr. Moran obviously didn't have the plan to present, so he gave a very brief overview of where things have kind of been to this point. So it might make sense for you to kind of go over the changes that were made since the December plan.
With your permission,
Yes,
ma'am?
yes, sir.
Why don't I
Please.
introduce the plan, and then the waivers will make more sense.
Okay.
And perhaps it'll also address the concerns that you have about the landscaping, because we're going to deal with that too.
Okay.
As you know, that in December, we received a 7-page letter with review comments from the planning staff. We have addressed all of them. And beginning with sheet number 1, much of it is, I'm going to call it administrative. There's no design changes on here, but on this sheet number 1 that you see now, we now have a signature block, all the professional stamps are on there. We note that there are no state approvals that are necessary. The zoning of all the parcels in the area is all noted. There's a zoning boundary up in this area right here. And the 4 waivers that we're going to be requesting at the end of my presentation are listed right there. So there's no material changes on that. On sheet 2, the existing conditions plan, the one big item that we have is there is a land surveyor stamp down here right now. We teamed up with K&A, and they put a field crew out there so that they could certify the boundary. Important to that boundary, of course, is this temporary turnaround easement that shows up right here. You're going to hear a lot about that later, I'm sure. But that easement was established with the first subdivision plan in, I'm going to say 1974. And then it morphed from there. But this planning board looked at it in 1982 when that cul-de-sac easement, or that turnaround easement, was revised and put down here. April 7th, 1982, the planning board decided to do that. And then the planning board also worked with it in March 15th of 2011, when PSNH improved the road and continued down to their station over here, so that they created their travelway down through here and across the B&M railroad tracks. At that time, they paved this area. Those are important things that you're going to want to know later. In addition to that, there's notation of the type of soils that are on site. We note that there's no wetlands that are present, that there's no floodplain present. We also have labeled all the setbacks here. There's a 17-foot setback in the front and a 2-foot setback in the rear. And although I don't think that you can read it up there, those setbacks show what actually exists. And this is a non-conforming building, and section 909.04 of your zoning ordinance allows us to continue as a non-conforming feature. And then I'm going to take you to the site plan now. Yep, there we go. When you look at it, gosh, the site plan looks almost just like the existing conditions plan. That's because it is. We made very few changes to it. There's very few changes that are being proposed. From the last time that you looked at it, we have changed the drainage system. There is sheet flow coming from this parking lot running southerly. And what we have done is we've captured that. There's some spot elevations through here that show you that when this comes across here, it kind of bears down here to the right-hand side. We extended this island right in this area. I'm going to flip back just so you can see that. See, that's what it looks like today. And that's what we're proposing it to be. When we do that, we're able to pick up all of this stormwater flow that's coming off of here and channel it through a treatment swale. It's a flat, grassy treatment swale. It's 4 feet wide. The intention of it is two things. One, to slow down the flow of the water, and number 2, to filter the water. Just going through the vegetation, it helps filter out some of the pollutants that are in it. And in engineering terms, that means you're increasing the T sub C. And by removing some of the pavement in this area, and there's some in the back too that's being removed, there honestly is very little that's being removed. It's just over 1,200 feet of pavement that's being removed. But when we remove it, it's allowing more of the rainwater to infiltrate. It's a move in the right direction. So we're decreasing the amount of volume of flow coming off the site. With the treatment swale, we're increasing the T sub C, how long it takes to get there. So the rate of flow, besides the volume of flow, the rate of flow is slowed down when it goes off-site and across the right-of-way. At the right-of-way, right over here. That was a point of contention dating all the way back to July. Because when a plan was proposed in 82, I believe, in 82?
There was a drainage.
A fellow owned both sides of the parcel, both sides of the road. And so maybe he took some liberties, and so he showed a swale going across the right-of-way right in this area, and just so that the water comes down here. It's not like we're generating the water. Raindrops fall, and God decides where it goes. Well, God decides that it goes downhill. And it comes down, it comes across the right-of-way. It's not a proper design for it to be going over the travel way. So we have designed a culvert system under the right-of-way, so that in fact, right through here, the road rises and goes back down. Here's a small profile of it. The road is rising and then coming back down. And there's two culverts sitting right in here. Here's the two culverts right here. And that rise and fall, that's not like a speed bump. That's an 80-foot long speed bump, and it only goes up 1.5 feet. So it'll slow you down, but it's not going to interrupt travel, especially right in that area there. So what we've done is we've taken care of the storm water. We didn't change where it ultimately goes, which is down here right along the railroad tracks and to points beyond. But what we've done is we've reduced the volume, reduced the rate of runoff, we filtered it, and we got it across the right-of-way safely. The second thing that I want to talk about, I already did talk about it, is the driveway. I'll go back here again, remember? There's a driveway over 100 feet wide, and there it is right now. What we did is we restricted it, and we're doing two things. One, I already talked about the drainage and the improvements that it provides for us with the storm water. But beyond that too, now it's containing the driveway. It's more of like a driveway that you would expect to see. Oh, look, here's a narrow way to go in through. And we designed that based on the use that's happening there. Tractor trailers can go through there, turns can be made, and trailers don't have to be running over the, running off the edge of pavement to be able to get in there. The sewer line. For those of you who have a really keen memory and can remember all of this stuff, in 1982, there was a decision to extend the sewer, put this building on the municipal sewer line. And that was part of the proposal in 1982. And so when we went out there to tie another sewer line into that, because we discontinued a sewer line back here, and we were going to run down the side of the building and tie into the sewer and get a municipal sewer. When we did that, we found out that there was a leaching field in the front. Nobody ever took the leaching field out. And so it is now part of our plan to do what they intended to do in 1982, is get this sewer into that sewer line. That way, when Keith Pasquale gets his sewer bill, which he has been getting, it'll be proper then. Because up until December, everybody thought that he was on sewer. And so he's been getting a sewer bill too, and his predecessor has been getting a sewer bill. And by the way,
We appreciate the revenue.
And this, I made reference to, there's a line that's discontinued coming out the back here. That's a mystery line. I'm not sure that anybody in the world knows where it goes, but we know that it's broken, and we can see where it's headed to. But we worked with the wastewater department.
Actually, AAA pump, scoped it.
Oh, okay, but you know what, the wastewater, I don't care about
yeah, they
AAA
looked
pump.
at-
The
all right.
wastewater department said, okay, we're gonna discontinue that, and this is how you're gonna discontinue it. And those notes are part of note number 15 on this sheet number 3, where they want us to fill it and mark it and stake it so that it can be recovered at a later time. But anyways, the point of me diverting into that was we were going to be running a sewer line down the side here and coming in and tie into the sewer. We're not going to do that any longer. There were too many challenges along the way, the railroad tracks, the proximity of the property line, the length of the line, and we had to be on a slope. So what we're going to do is we're essentially going to be pumping it through the building. So a small pump station inside the building, pump it through the building and out at this point here. Now it's going to exit the building just like all of the other sewage does, through a 6-inch line that comes out here, and it comes through a backwater valve, goes through the, what else is out there? There's a sewer manhole at this point, and then goes across over to there. So there, I talked about the drainage, I talked about the driveway, and I talked about the sewer. And a couple other miscellaneous things that are happening on this plan. On note number 2, we clarify the purpose of the plan, being for trailer suspension and repair. And I also want to point out in the notes up here on sheet number 3, which I suspect you have in front of you too, it tells you what we're doing out here in 4 short bullets. Number 1, we're going to stripe some parking spaces. You can well imagine that this parking was striped back in 1982, and over that much time that those stripes are pretty much worn pretty thin. So we're going to restripe it and stripe it this way so that we have 20 parking spaces out there. We're going to connect to the sanitary sewer the way it was supposed to have done in 1982. We're going to remove that 1,220 square feet of pavement, primarily in the front down here. So we're restricting the width of the driveway. And we're going to be constructing that treatment swale and those culverts. That's all part of that note up there. Besides that, there was some other, again, I'm going to call it administrative things. We have benchmark information that was put onto this plan, some standard notes that the town of Merrimack wants to have on the site plan, identifying who's responsible for what, noting that if there's any work done within the right-of-way, we need a permit from the Merrimack Highway Division, and that no salt or chemicals or de-icers are going to be used for winter maintenance, which is getting to be a pretty standard thing across the state with Green Snow Pro certified. There was a sign out front here. Now, by the time I got to it and revised the plan to say that the sign is going to be removed, which that's what it says, the sign has been removed. So it's perhaps an outdated sign at this point. And previously, we had shown the dumpster over here. And the dumpster location has been moved back here.
Good.
It's away from the right-of-way.
Good.
It has a fence around it. And with an appropriate segue, that would lead to my first variance request, which is for parking. Madam Chair, that's my introduction of the plan, and if you permit me, I'll continue on into the waiver requests.
Please.
So I'm going to take on that waiver request right now. Because we had moved the dumpster up front because we were trying to get 21 parking spaces in there, it occurred to us after the last meeting that it was more important to move the dumpster back and to make that driveway narrower and decrease the impervious area than it was to meet the requirement for 21 parking spaces. And in our arguments in support of it, I'd say that we're only missing one, where by regulation, by the building use, we would require 21 parking spaces when we only have 20. But I want to go back in history again. We were first developed in 1970, so in 50 years has resulted in the configuration that we have today. Because in May of 1982, when the site plan came in to put this addition on the building, This pavement up here looked just like this. The plan looked like, just like it in 1982. The extent of the pavement as shown on that site plan remains unchanged today until we're proposing it like this. And the parking requirements were different in 1982 because for this very same building in 1982, only 8 parking spaces were required, and they had them tucked up against the building right here. So we didn't have the facility to do it. We were taking away some pavement to do some better things than have parking. And so we left ourselves one space short to be able to afford some other improvements to the site. Madam Chair, that's my presentation for that waiver.
All right, so I'm going back to the memo that was in our packet. Not this black one.
Yeah,
But the
I
memo that
realize
was
what
in the
happened.
packet, and the first one there is a waiver request for parking.
And it actually is included in the black book that I handed out. What happened was,
I couldn't find it, but,
it should be further along, but what happened is I ended up in my packet with their response letter. None of you had that. So those waiver requests that we were trying to find earlier are actually several pages deep in my packet, but it was, in theory, pretty close to what you had already. So we started reading off of a response letter that I had that none of you did, and that's where we kind of got lost. But in theory, you should now have a letter in there, or either from the packet originally. I believe what you had was the cover sheet has a George's signature on it. It says regarding 20 Star Drive, request for determination of suitability of landscaping. The next page after that stapled sheet talks about the 4 waiver requests.
all right, can we leave landscaping for the moment?
Yes, we should be dealing with the parking.
And let's deal with the parking. So you're required to have 21 spaces, you only have 20. You're asking for a waiver of that.
Correct. And everything that I said is
Yep.
in the letter if you in fact have it.
We've got the parking. What's the board's?
Question.
Sure.
Question. How many parking spaces do you need to run your business?
Currently, there are approximately 6 employees there on a daily basis. So we felt that 6 to 8. There are no customers that visit the site.
So you don't need 21.
No, but that's the requirement from.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important.
Therefore,
Therefore, I will make a motion to grant the waiver of 20 to 21, 21 to 20 parking spaces for this site.
second? Barb, thank you.
Criteria, strict conformity or hardship.
Strict conformity would impose
Unnecessary hardship.
unnecessary hardship on this particular development.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye, aye,
Mm.
aye, aye. 500. That waiver is granted. Next waiver.
The next waiver that I have and that you should have is for the building rendering.
All right, that's the third one we've got here on that page. Okay, go ahead with that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, for the wetland scientist and the wetland delineation.
Yep,
Okay, I want to follow the program.
please. We're having a, we're struggling here, so yes, thank you. Wetland delineation.
We're asking for a waiver for the criteria that, that notes wetland delineation criteria and a wetland scientist certification should be added to the plans. There is no apparent wetland that exists on the site. The front is mostly paved, the back is a railroad track, or railroad bed. So there are no wetlands that are present. Further, we are not developing, we're not proposing any development that would impact any undisturbed areas. Any deviation to that may be where we're digging up a leaching field extending the shore, and that's where the treatment swell is going in. But clearly, in that area, there are no wetland areas. We did not have a wetland scientist certified to that, but it seems apparent to the passerby that there are no wetlands there. For this reason, we request a waiver that we believe is within the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Board?
Okay. I have no problem with that argument. I'm willing to,
So you're making a motion?
well, I wanted to let, Neil wants to say something.
No, I'm fine.
Barb wants to say something.
Question for you. This area has had a drainage issue for some time, and you've tried to rectify that on your plans with additional soils, et cetera. Where does the water go? Because
The-
it has to go somewhere, so where is it going?
Sure. God decided this, that it's going to come down here and it's going to travel south. Right now, there's been a lot of discussion about improper drainage right here. There is a puddle that forms here. I was there a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when it was very cold, and there's a little skating rink right here. Some water goes there, and it's a depression within that pavement area, and there is the semblance of some type of swale being constructed or being blocked or something along here. But anyway, water wasn't able to escape there. So we know that, and I think that's what you've been hearing about. For the most part, the water that comes from here, and by the way, from about half of, let me back up one over here. There we go. From about back here, from about half of Star Drive, because under Star Drive, there's a culvert and a wetland right through this area. There's a closed drainage system that extends down to here that I believe picks this up and returns the water that way. So it's coming downhill, gets into the catch basin is returning it this way. But from those catch basins on down, water is just running downhill. That's what it does. After it comes down here, it follows along the railroad track and comes down here. I have personally walked right along this railroad track just looking for the outlet. Behind this building, they have a treatment facility, a detention pond. There is an outlet right here from that detention pond, and it comes out here. And I believe, I was not able to find the path for that water besides that. But there's no apparent problem. It seems that the water can infiltrate there, or maybe there's a culvert under the railroad track that I missed. But that's where it goes. The watershed here travels down along this way and over here. Ultimately, it makes it to the Merrimack River.
You good?
Okay, you're looking for a motion,
Yes.
Madam Chairman. I will, let me get the wording right here. The question was, what was the motion we wanted to make?
We're gonna waive noting the wetland delineation
Oh, the
criteria.
wetland delineation, yes. I would move that we waive a requirement for wetland deviation on this site because
And the scientist certification.
the scientist certification, because we believe there isn't any.
So it's
No,
within the spirit and intent of the regulation.
Yes, right.
Do we have a second? Maureen, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 500. All right, we got that one passed. Now the building rendering.
I shouldn't say this, but I think these waivers are going to get easier now. The building rendering, the building has been, I should do that. The building rendering, we're asking for a waiver of that because this building has existed for more than 50 years, as you've heard in my testimony so far. There's been no substantial changes to it. A picture of that building was included in the packet, attached to that, and where it's an industrial building. And so we asked for a waiver of the requirement to have a rendering done by an architect showing you what the building looks like, because we provided a photograph.
I'm okay with that. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
If everybody has their discussion, I will move that we waive the requirement for rendering of the buildings because of the hardship it would cause to the developer for no
And second?
benefit to the town.
Neil, thank you. All in favor of waiving?
Aye.
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 500,
thank you very much. And on to the illumination.
On to the illumination. We are proposing no changes to the exterior illumination. We argue that the long-term and ongoing use of the lighting at this site is testimony alone for the adequacy of the existing lighting. We will continue with the existing lighting that has been there for this past duration. We argue that strict conformity with the regulations would require preparation of a lighting plan that would pose an unnecessary hardship to the applicant, and that waiver is not contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Does the use that's being proposed and changed from what used to be there make any difference in the lighting requirement?
It does not.
Okay.
No, he has no visitors apparently to this site. Is that true?
Occasionally, a trucker will come and drop off a truck,
Yeah.
all right? But again, no
for the
real
most part.
customers. It's drop
During,
off,
during
pick up,
business hours and
regular business hours. Yes, they don't work
Yeah.
nights.
Okay, yeah.
security is sufficient for the lighting that you have?
We believe it to be.
Okay.
Then in that case, I will move that we waiver the requirement for a lighting plan for this site. Because again, it would cause unnecessary hardship to the applicant.
And second? Maureen, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, aye.
Aye.
500?
Nay.
No, 410. To
Did you-
waive the lighting requirement.
Yeah, only because with the addition of the parking and whatnot, I think that maybe the parking area should be eliminated.
He doesn't even need the parking. That's why I asked the question.
All right, we've got
Okay.
an approval of
You got your vote, you got your
410.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know.
Robert, do we have any other waivers here that I'm going between these two documents?
Waivers, no. The determination about the landscaping is all that
Landscaping.
remains.
Okay. Nelson, you had an issue with that?
Well,
What do you
no,
think?
I had a question. We have not waived the requirement for the water runoff on this site. Is that correct? Is my understanding?
Previously, we had asked for a waiver for the preparation of a stormwater report.
Yeah,
Understanding the unique situation that we have out here, we have withdrawn that waiver. We have submitted a stormwater report to
good,
the planning board,
okay.
and I described to you the function of it, and the stormwater report validates the numbers that I described to you, reducing the volume, reducing the
Yeah.
rate, and then, of course, increasing the treatment of the water before it leaves the site.
Now, that report will be reviewed by our consulting engineers. Am I
That's a question for back there.
correct on that, Robert?
We have not, as staff, made that decision at this time because of the fact of the existing condition of the drainage and the fact that anything they do represented an improvement. If the board wants that to be done, we can certainly do that, but we have, at this time, not taken that step.
Well, I for one do want it done, so,
I think that's appropriate.
yeah. I mean,
$3,000.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment to your request, Nelson. Basically, this situation has existed since 1982. There have been no changes to the runoff from the road since that time. Our plan is clearly a distinct improvement for the water that we are responsible for, which is the water that comes off of our site. I will not cure the drainage problem because there's enough water coming off of Star Drive. That puddle that you see after every rainstorm will still be there tomorrow.
Right. You're not responsible for that at all.
We are not.
I'm just thinking about the water coming off your site, and I wanna know.
And again, we have addressed that issue satisfactorily, I believe, with
Well,
all
that's
the.
what I wanted to, that's what I wanted
Yeah,
to.
As
but
long
you-
as long as staff agrees that you have addressed it satisfactorily, then we're fine.
We believe.
But we want the staff to agree to that,
Okay,
that's all.
thank you.
We good?
Well, I don't know. It depends what they say.
Well, if staff says we need something, then we deal with it.
Mm-hmm. As well as Public Works.
Absolutely.
I believe that was part of planning staff comments, is that it was going to run through the other
Right.
staff members, Public Works, Engineering, etc.
Yeah, but I want it done before I approve this, because I think we might have to do something different.
Well, we may, but we're not at that point yet.
Yeah.
Robert, we need anything else here?
Nothing with that. We're gonna have the plan reviewed by Fuss and O'Neill, the drainage plan,
Yes.
and now it's the landscaping determination.
Matt?
Of course, Neil, go ahead.
I'm just curious as to, we just have to make a determination as to whether or not what's existing there is adequate.
I believe so.
Or
Something
suitable.
that's been there for 40 years,
Yep.
or the mature growth that's been there the whole time.
Yep.
I have a question for the applicant. The 2 islands that you propose to put in to narrow the driveway?
Yeah, they're truly not islands, but yeah. I know what
Okay,
you
is
mean.
there any curbing?
No,
There's no curbing, so
Correct.
you said that you're removing the asphalt?
yeah,
Yes.
right there.
Okay, and it's going to be grass?
This is a grassy swell running through here.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it only makes sense.
Can you
this-
put some
this-
shrubs in?
If you'd
like
shrubs,
Just thinking, it would be an improvement to the landscaping without having to go overboard, but it would also, I think,
And we can argue that it would improve the drainage because those plants like that do like to drink water.
As long as we can fit them, as you can see, part of that is in the right of way, that we're
Well, it's-
proposing. So, again, we'd be more than happy to add some landscaping.
but you won't be driving over that.
No, not at all.
Right, so it's not really necessarily, well, debatably
No, I
right
think
away.
that's a good suggestion. I think
But
it-
just thinking that the existing landscaping has been there forever.
Yes.
Visually, it would improve it as well as you say,
It would also help
plants
that.
drink water.
And I think that for
I'll just make
myself,
a comment relative to the appearance of the building. It was the owner's intention to repair and repaint the building before we got caught up in all of this madness. So believe me, he plans to
That
be
would,
there for a
that
long
would
time.
improve it as well.
He's passing it on to his children, and believe me, that building will look a lot better a year from now than it does
Good.
now, as soon as we are allowed to move forward and move in fully.
We're trying.
I get, what I'm saying is that if that, you were to do something like that, then it would certainly make me think that the landscaping is adequate the way it is, with the addition of maybe
No,
some
we have
shrubs
no
and
issues
flowers.
with that at all.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
And
Robert.
I just want to note, any landscaping to be positioned in the right of way, just clear it through the town engineer before it gets done.
Absolutely.
We good?
And with that, you're talking about plantings like
Shrub.
this work out here.
Yep.
Could be grass or mulch or.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just, nothing.
Yeah,
vertical.
they basically, like,
Yep.
it's a site distance thing
No big
primarily,
trees.
so I don't anticipate them having any issue, but still, because it's in their right of way, it should just be okayed with them.
Sure.
Are you good with that, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
And
No.
for,
go, Barb.
Matt, for the record, the trees that have been there for 40 years does not constitute landscaping. They were there, they're still there, Nobody's taken them down, but they're not landscaping. They're not improving the lot. They're not improving the street or the visual of the street and the building. So I just want to make sure stop calling those trees landscaping, because they're not. And I personally, yes, the building's been there for 40 years, but that doesn't mean that it has to continue looking like that, or the entire street needs to look like that. I would like to see something, one tree, one shrub sitting in that island is fine, but I would like to see a little bit more effort made to make the building and the surrounding area look a lot more presentable.
I think you'll find that that'll happen with the new owner in place. Again, we've been stymied for doing anything to improve the building beyond what we've done just to meet life safety and building requirements.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I fully agree with you, Barbara, 100%.
So is it safe to say that the determination is that the existing stuff, that we don't need a landscape
Correct.
plan?
Plan.
Right.
Is that what we're
Yeah.
determining?
A motion
Right.
would be potentially to determine that the existing vegetation is sufficient to substitute for additional landscaping requirements. However, you could also say pending the addition of the shrubbery that was discussed with the applicant.
We don't need a landscape plan.
Correct. The existing vegetation would substitute for a formalized landscaping plan. That's
So
the
your
motion that
motion
would have
would
to
be
be
what
made.
Robert said.
With the addition of some landscaping.
We're
Would
willing to
waive the
accept it
requirement for a
for a
landscape.
full plan.
Right.
Just,
If we could just identify it as street side landscaping, because again, the big issue here is 99% of the grass area is actually along in between the railroad tracks, which itself needs to be maintained per the fire department. It's never been cut back. So again, it's on our list of requirements by the fire department that will get taken care of and will be maintained in terms of not presenting a fire hazard to the building.
So I don't
So
think we
along the
need
street, again, to improve the appearance of the property, that is behooves what the owner's trying to accomplish.
Sure, so I think curb appeal is what we're thinking, not necessarily anything around the back.
And that's just it. That's what, so we limit the landscaping to the curb appeal or to the front of the building. I think we're fine.
So
That
we
it
don't
really
need a
is
formal
worthwhile.
landscaping plan.
Correct.
correct.
So
But
I
we
would
would
need a
like
motion to that effect.
Give a little
Robert, are you clear as to what the motion is?
So, the way I've got it drafted would be, board's determined, the motion would be to determine that the existing vegetation is sufficient enough to substitute for an additional landscaping, to substitute for additional landscaping requirements as per section 3.09.c.7, pending the proposed installation of some street side landscaping.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Nelson. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
410. All right. Where do we go from here, Robert?
So from here, I would see if the applicant has any additional comments they'd like to make, have the board ask any other questions that they would like to ask, and then move into the public hearing.
Okay, we can do that. Gentlemen, anything else at this point?
I have nothing left to offer. I believe that we satisfied the site plan checklist because, you know, that this all started with a waiver of site plan regulations. But it's got to this point. I have no additional comment beyond what we presented tonight.
Board, questions, comments? Anybody?
Mine would be after we hear
Okay.
the public testimony, yeah.
All right, gentlemen, if you would vacate your seats, and I will open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this proposal. In favor of this proposal. That's the other one. Seeing none? Anyone speaking against this proposal? Introduce yourselves and make sure your mics are on.
Want me to move this closer? Where would you like me to put it?
Shift it up a little bit, please.
Thank you. Don't go too far.
No, on the corner. Thank you. Yep, that's good.
Good afternoon, good evening, I'm sorry. I'm Rick Calica. I represent Calica LLC, which owns acreage behind the railroad tracks.
You're saying
and-
on the other side of the tracks?
The other side of the
Okay.
tracks. And Mr. Doty, who represents the area south of the tracks. Now, if you look at the, you give them, they have, which end up they have this one.
South of the property we're talking about.
South of Star
South,
Drive.
which is the bottom of the,
Okay.
Lot 3D17.
Yep,
thank
okay.
you, 3D17. And this is Cynthia Beauvais, who is a licensed land surveyor. We have objections to this plan for 3 reasons. First being, they don't have the property rights to do what they're trying to do. Now, just to correct the applicant's comments earlier, they were aware of this before they purchased the property. They were also aware of the drainage problems before they purchased the property. Second of all,
Do you want me to just go through?
yes, go ahead.
That might be easier. Okay.
Cynthia, introduce yourself, please. There's a button.
Okay. There we go. Cynthia Beauvais from, could you move over a little bit, please? Thank you. Cynthia Beauvais from Arago Land Consultants. I'm a licensed land surveyor from Amherst, New Hampshire. So we were hired by Rick Kalika, Larry Doty, and Brock's Industries to do a boundary survey of Lot 3D 1-7, and they all have interest in Star Drive and then the crossing to the 2 properties over here. So the first plan that you have in your handout is the survey for Lot 3D 1-7. There are 2 existing easements on this property. There's a 50-foot easement from Star Drive going down to Lot 3D 1-41-2, and that services the lot to the south of Lot 1-7. And then there is another access and utility easement right here, granted to Kalika LLC, which, so it comes down through here, and the Kalika parcel is over here. Those are the only 2 existing easements on this parcel. There is no recorded sewer easement on this parcel. The sewer line does run across it, but no rights were ever granted to the town to construct that sewer line there or for any access of it. I don't know who was the owner when the sewer line went in, but there was this New Hampshire State Supreme Court ruling. It was in Portsmouth, Boyle v. Portsmouth, that just because the sewer line is there, subsequent owners are not required to allow the use of that sewer line, nor to allow the right of the city to use it. So there's precedent in New Hampshire court system. So that's a very important item.
So we have no recorded easement.
Right.
Okay.
And nor is the owner of 3D 1-7 required to allow construction on his property for access to that sewer, so. And then with regards to the turnaround that we've heard so much on, the only recorded in deeds, and there's plenty of plans, but only in deeds do you get recorded easements. So the easement, the turnaround that goes onto Lot 1-12, Lot 1-1, and just a little bit on 1D7 is per the original subdivision plan. There were no granted rights to this paved area down here.
Again, that have been recorded.
Right, but if they're not recorded, they don't exist. Because, so that's very much key. We go by the deeds, okay? So, then in 2013, Keach Nordstrom Associates, who did the boundary for the current existing conditions plan, recorded this plan. And their plan shows, they show a 20-foot sewer easement, but they said no deed or easement found.
Okay.
So they recognized that there wasn't an easement. And the same thing for the turnaround. It says status uncertain, but as you grantee and grantor, any of the parcels, and it's not just these two parcels, it's all the parcels on Star Lane. They were all granted rights to the turnaround for Lot 12. None of them have been granted any rights to the turnaround, to a turnaround on Lot 1-7. So that's, so there's that plan. And then, so this is the original subdivision plan, where the rights to the turnaround came from. It's Plan 7687. We see the turnaround over here. This is this current site plan that you're looking at. At that point, it was 1-8, and Lot 1-A is currently 21 Star Drive, Lot 1-7. So, in the deeds for all of these lots, there was a subsequent subdivision of this lot, but those two lots, they all reference the rights to the turnaround per this plan. So, and we have Karen.
Just give me, what was the date on that?
The date on 7687 was May 28th, 1974.
Okay. It's on the lower right-hand corner. Right there.
And then in April of 1982, George Fredette owned both parcels. He created this plan where it was labeled the,
George Fletcher.
George Fletcher, I'm sorry.
Wondering.
I know.
I was looking for
Sorry.
Fredette, I couldn't find it.
So, so they meant to extinguish this and create this. When George Fletcher sold this parcel, he didn't reference this plan. He sold it per 7687. So, and when he sold Lot 1-8, 20 Star Drive, he referred to the original plan. So he owned both of them. This plan was recorded, but the easements are rights that are shown on plans. The plan doesn't create any sewer easements or right-of-ways or anything. They have to be deeded rights, and nothing was changed per this plan. So the existing conditions plan you're looking at today, which was the existing conditions was prepared by K&A, Keach Nordstrom. There, it now says there is a 20-foot sewer easement, and there is this turnaround on lot 1-7, but it is not there. So from the same firm, they have a recorded plan, and then they've created this plan. So, does anybody have any questions about all those rights and easements?
How does this happen?
Unfortunately, as I
It
said,
happens.
from Portsmouth, the Portsmouth case, there have been a lot of assumptions, and these things do happen. But the thing is, if, let's say, George Fletcher cannot go back and grant those rights because now he no longer doesn't own the land, and he doesn't have that right to do that. So you really can't go back. The thing for you to understand, therefore, the importance of it is the, let's look at the,
All the sanitizer and hand washing, everybody's hands have been dried out.
I did not put the existing conditions plan or the proposed site plan in your packet because I assume you have them. And I think I moved the mouse so we can't see them anymore up there. But, so the sewer, as it's coming across Star Drive, it's going over the right-of-way into lot 1-7. There are no rights to be able to cross that right-of-way line for the sewer line, to hook into the sewer line there. Okay? There is a sewer line running, the town does have a sewer easement right down the railroad, the whole way down the railroad. There are lots to the south where theirs goes, it comes in right into the sewer right there. So this lot does have this whole length that it could come into the sewer. Not on lot 1-7, but it can get to the sewer without crossing onto somebody else's property. So there is that. The other concern is the treatment swale. Inasmuch, so right now, I think they did a very good job of explaining, it's all sheet drainage, and it's the whole road's coming down in there, and all the drainage is coming down onto coming down this way, and it's puddling in here. But by filling in like this and putting in the drainage swale, then you're crossing over, and the outlets are about 6 feet from the right-of-way line and going into the existing riprap swale that's there. I looked through the drainage calcs and all their plans, and I didn't see any spot on the existing conditions. I didn't see any spot elevations within this existing drainage swale right down here. I didn't see capacity of that swale in that. So right now, all the water is draining like this. It's coming down. And according to the presentation we just heard, it's going to be coming down in here. And then the outlet is at one portion that it's directional towards lot 1-7. So I'm not an engineer, but I do know water has a tough time making a right angle, so it's coming in here and then it's going to spread out in this area. Just be nice for your drainage when you have an engineer review it, the town engineer. That would be something you could have more information on. I think that would be very helpful. And it's also, as it's coming down here, again, where's it going? It's supposedly draining down here. I think the drainage study should have been more expansive. How is this affecting lot 1-7? The other thing with regards to the swale, there's a depression in this area, and so if the water this road is now coming down towards the railroad, Then it's going to go back, and it's supposed to be going back 150 feet west. So it's coming down in here, and then it's going to go in here again. How is the water going to do that? I think I had read from previous minutes that one of the members of the planning board had said the water should all be treated. There's quite a bit of land right in here, and I know that there's some trees there. This spur is private. It's owned by this lot. It's not a railroad. It was for their benefit if they wanted to get railroad trucks out. But a detention basin, so that the swale would come down, it could get treated there, and then I'm not sure where it would overflow to, but right now it's just two directional onto this parcel that I surveyed. The other thing that was stated in the comments was that the planning board was looking, the turnaround was eliminated by the planning board in 1982. The planning board does not have the right to extinguish private landowners' rights. And so I've already explained that all the lots on Star Drive have rights to this turnaround. So even if the planning board extinguished all those rights, every single person would have had to create a deed giving up their rights over here, and this lot would have to give them all a deed with the rights to this turnaround. I granted, it did not happen. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Let me just add something.
Sure.
Back in 1982, when they say that they proposed the turnaround. George Fletcher proposed the turnaround. He also proposed and was the turnaround. His moving the turnaround had a number of conditions on it, including all the drainage and swales that he was supposed to do that he never did.
Right.
So he never met the conditions that were required. How he got the building built, I don't know. But the building that was part of the proposal got built, none of the requirements to handle the drainage that building also causes. And before that, the drainage used to go onto, I'm not sure what it used to go onto.
Understand.
Okay, just so, so the 1982, and let me
A
just
lot of
add,
stuff happened
there have
back
been, never
then that we
been
don't know
parking
anything about.
spaces. Never been parking spaces
So
on
we
that
have to deal with it
property
now.
since 98, when I became familiar with it.
Okay.
Nelson, you had asked how could this have happened. So that Supreme Court case did address that. And, you know, back in the day, you might have been given permission, and sometimes you could get a license or whatever. But when the Supreme Court, in its Supreme Court case 2020-005, they ruled that even though it's the public, being the city or the town, they can't infringe, future owners can't be held for that. So I'm not quite sure what, how, I believe Portsmouth and this Boyle came to an agreement, but they had to come to an agreement, and it had to be satisfactory to Boyle. It wasn't in the city's interest. So I want you to be thinking about that as you approve the site plan. Again, this does not close them off from hooking up to the sewer. They can zip right out here. So, which is good, and that's what other parcels further south have done. So that's, and it's quite unusual. And even though most of the time sewer easements are 20 feet wide, if in the city of Nashua had owned a piece of property, they sold it, and then they didn't reserve their rights to a water line, and then, so they no longer had a water easement. The courts ruled that yes, you own the water line, but you don't have the rights to tell the people above it where you can put your house. You know, it wasn't like a 10-foot or a 20-foot easement. So there's a lot of precedent on that. There's
no way we're going to correct anything that happened 20, 30, 40 or more years ago. We just have to deal with the existing situation as it is now and make sure that it is correct to all parties involved.
Right. I just wanted you to understand the legal,
No, I understand. That's clear.
of this lot to the south.
That's
I
clear.
think, and in the notes,
Yep.
okay. Does anybody have any questions?
We know this stuff happens, and you can't change it. It's happened. You just have to go forward from there and deal with it and where we're gonna go. Neil?
Well, that's
I do have a question.
certain.
I understand your concern for tying the sewer in and having to come onto your property. That's a given. If you don't want them on there and they don't have rights to it, then they can't go on there. You submitted a 500-page thing, and most of it was about turnaround. And the temporary turnaround, and I'm curious, what is the concern about the turnaround? What is that hindering? How is that to hinder you in any way by them proceeding with the business or with the site plan? Is it just that they didn't include it the first time? I'm just having a hard time understanding what the big deal is about the turnaround.
Because this is industrial zone, and that is the existing turnaround, and it's all open pavement right now, so that as you're closing that entrance, the trucks will not be able to come in and do that. It's a narrower one. It's still pretty wide, which is pretty nice, but it's not going to be a smooth turnaround anymore, because that assumption on that side of the road that it was extinguished, but it wasn't. So, and that does affect them. If cars are parked in there, then how can those vehicles turn around? Even though that paved area is there, no one really has legal rights to turn around in that, and it's much smaller than what is required for trucks, the size trucks that go down there. So, I have one other thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
Go ahead.
I just needed some clarity because I've been down there too, and it looks like there's ample space for vehicles to move around. I just want to make sure that I understand your intent here completely, so we can make a good decision.
Yeah, currently there is. That's the deal. Currently there is, but by changing it, that does it. So when the culvert comes in right here, it's proposed to regrade Star Drive right in like this. And it's coming down right to the railroad right of way. And there's a gate right here, which Rick Kalika and Brock's Industries and Eversource, this is their access to get to their properties. So and this is the cross section. So as you're filling above the pipe that's going to drain across the street, but you're filling it, and then you're raising it, and then you're coming right down, and you're coming right down to the gate, which means the vehicles, and think of public service vehicles, are coming down. They've got to stop. Yes, it's only a 5% slope, but it still isn't the level grade that it is now.
Okay.
Stop them, get out, open the gates.
Okay.
Then they get across, and they have to come back and close the gates. So that's a concern too for Brock's, Kalika, and Eversource. But the other thing is, then as this water's coming down Star Drive, it's coming and hitting this slope right here, and then it's not that this is all gravel and ground. It's not paved, but it's just that drainage report that you want to have reviewed is going to be very important, because how much is going over over the right-of-way on property line. So
Let me add a little bit to that,
Go
too.
ahead.
Star Drive, town regulations require any dead end to have a turnaround.
Mhm.
Star Drive is a little bit more unique in the fact that it's a dead end off a federal highway, US Route 3 in that area. Additionally, the approach going to that railroad track is governed by Federal Railroad Administration.
Yep.
And you're getting into the pipe and the swale is built
Okay.
as part of the approach to that railroad crossing.
Understood.
And there's also a need to look at, you have almost 13 and a half acres sitting behind that crossing.
Correct.
That is undeveloped, that's along the Merrimack River,
Yep.
that is prime property.
Yep.
Additionally, I would add one thing. I'm gonna pass out deeds, the applicant's deed. You should see me just vegetable thing, trying to get the plastic bags separated, so I can.
Thank you.
If you will note, the applicant's deed in the highlighted area says that it's subject to the temporary turnaround shown on the plan. The plan is mentioned above in his deed as 7687, which is the initial 1974 plan.
I don't think there's any question, but that there is a question about the turnaround location. And the
turnaround, I'm not sure what the question is. You have deeds, including the applicant's current deed.
I understand, and I'm saying, I don't think there's any question about where the turnaround legally is located.
Okay,
Where they want to put it, or where they think it's going to go, or where somebody thinks it was changed to, is irrelevant. There's an existing plan that says, here's where the turnaround is. It's on the deed, we understand that.
okay. Second thing I would like to talk, when we get to parking, if you would look at,
Wait a minute.
Before we go back to parking, sorry,
sure.
before we move on to parking, so I'm just following up with Neil. So you're asking about the turnaround itself, and that you are saying that if anything is done to it, that people, trucks especially, will not be able to use that as a turnaround.
I did not, as a land surveyor, I did not do that study.
Okay,
But-
that's what I'm hearing, okay.
Okay, so, but when you look at how wide open the existing conditions is, that it's, I believe it's like 100 feet right now, and it's gonna go down to 52 feet. So it's not as wide and open, and inside it's still gonna be all paving, but it's gonna be a tighter turn to come in and to come back out through that 52 feet, as opposed to, oh, I can just make that nice big sweeping turn.
Barb?
And-
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Maureen.
But I understand that the company there right now is a trucking company, right?
Yes.
So I guess I'm not following, and
Oh, I know.
There are
It's-
trucks that come down the road from vendors, Federal Express, that come down the road and
are we
use it as a
talking
turnaround.
18-wheelers, box trucks?
Unfortunately,
Okay.
since the applicant has occupied the property and you put trucks on it, and you can see that in the last pages of your handout. There are actual pictures of the truck on the property. So although there aren't many parking spaces used, there is a considerable amount of that whole turnaround used for storage.
Oh,
So
okay,
this-
I'm just trying to figure this out here.
Cynthia, wait.
So what I'm hearing is that they may be parking in that turnaround, and therefore people can't access it?
Okay.
Could
what I-
be.
Could be.
So we could just put a no parking there, and people could turn around?
Well, the problem is 16 of the 20 spaces the applicant is proposing interfere with that turnaround.
In the parking lot?
On the applicant's plan, 16, if you look at the plan.
The turnaround is in their parking lot.
Okay.
It is their parking lot.
Right,
yeah.
so
It
it,
is their parking lot.
it impacts it, there's no question.
And what has happened since the applicant has moved in it's forced trucks onto Doty's property to turn around.
But that happened long before.
What?
That happened long before this applicant
Right.
moved in.
What happened, what, oh, I'm sorry.
The reconfiguration with the asphalt and so on was done by a prior owner to this present applicant for a lot, whatever number.
It goes back to when,
It was actually
The-
Public Service who never owned the lot.
well, it goes back to when the turnaround was changed by
Yeah,
the
But
planning
it wasn't
board.
changed, it was proposed. It wasn't
what-
changed. The pavement
I'm
has
saying the
existed.
planning,
Yep,
Rick?
Rick.
the planning board changed, whether they did it legal or not is irrelevant at this point. They changed the turnaround. And it has been used in that change before these people bought it. So it's an ongoing issue for many years. Whether it's legal or not, I'm not debating that. That's an attorney issue. But it has been in existence for many years.
Okay, the pave that you showed that PSNH did, if that was objected to at the time, the town gave an opinion that the turnaround did not have the legal rights to move, and that's the,
When was that? Give me a year.
exit 6 in your packet, that in
Give
the
me a
black
year.
binder, 2012.
Okay.
That the turnaround, there was no legal rights to move the turnaround.
And
that
when did the town move the
when
turnaround?
did they do it?
The town,
82.
Excuse me, there was no there was a proposal to move it.
Could you please use the microphone?
I'm sorry. There was a,
Button. Slide it.
hello,
it's the red. Push. There you go.
hello? Is that,
Yep.
Yes, sir.
this whole area is paved, and there's really no dissemination as to what was a
Right.
turnaround and what wasn't.
Correct.
PSNH in 2011 came in, and the town, as part of their approval, required that they pave this section of road.
Okay.
There was an objection taken by me at the time, Calica LLC,
Okay.
as to their ability to do that. The town came back and said, a Kimball deed had referenced the temporary turnaround shown on the proposed plan.
Okay.
What year are we now?
This is in 2012. This is the town's
This
attorney
is
up there
recent.
commenting on.
Which one are you?
All right, Rick, at this point, I'm gonna suggest, we have a number of issues that have been raised, that need to be addressed legally as well as physically. And I don't believe the planning board at this point is in any position to approve anything or to move forward until we get some answers to some of these back issues that have occurred. So I'm going to suggest, at this point, we've made note of a couple of your major concerns, which I think we have noted. Property rights, the sewer line, the drainage, the turnaround. I think we need to go back with community development to address some of these and do some research on this. So I'm going to suggest, Robert, if this is appropriate. Hang on. I'm just gonna make a suggestion, we'll get to the questions, that we continue this until we get some of these questions answered. Maureen, question?
Yeah, so just in regards to the turnaround, what is your resolution?
My resolution is to keep the turnaround where everybody has deeded rights to it. Where it's existed for the
So-
past X number of years,
So
since
no
73
change
or
to
4.
it. It's where it is on the deeds.
Okay.
It's
Barb?
where it is on the deeds. The problem there is part of the appeal that was taken to the Superior Court involved enforcement of those turnaround rights.
Yep.
The court stayed everything until the results of the planning board hearing of the matter. So some of the legal things that you're resolving can't be resolved until the board rules on this issue because of the stay, until the stay is lifted.
We need our legal people to step in and say, here's what you need to do. Because I'm not in a position, certainly, to make a determination, and that's why I want some time. You've raised some legitimate issues. I think there's no question but what they're legitimate issues. I believe the applicants are trying to do the right thing and do what they need to do, but we need to get some resolution from our point of view as to where we go from here. Barb, you had something else?
Just a couple of questions so that I'm clear which turnarounds we're talking about. So there is one to the north that goes through the applicant's parking lot, correct? And then there's that little area that's paved to the south of that. Which one are you talking about? Both of
The
them?
legal one is the one to
The
the
big
north.
circle.
Okay, so let me ask a question, because is anybody using this today? Because to the west of the applicant's building, it's all grass and shrubs and weeds, and there's no way a truck could get through there. So I'm just wondering, how are they turning around?
There's also a telephone pole.
That too, but you might be able to miss that one.
They use it they have used the area, 75 feet's a lot, but they have been using, there's a little portion.
There's a little portion just to the south of the circle.
Actually on this
Yep.
property.
Yep,
Okay.
There's some here and there's some here.
yep.
Yeah, because up until 2 years ago, if you look at Google Earth,
Right.
that little place to the south, that little paved area was all, it was storage for leftover construction stuff, it looked like.
Well,
All cement stuff.
What
There's
you-
no way you could even park a car in there.
What you
let
had
alone
at the
turn
time
around.
was a granite man that had leased this building, needed room to store his granite, and then purchased this parcel from me.
Mm-hmm.
And there was granite all
Yeah,
over
the place.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Cynthia?
However, trucks do come down there and turn around all the time.
Yep.
That traffic has since a lot of the area, again, if you look at the pictures at the end of the handout you were giving, intrudes so far out that they now have to use Doty Group's property
Yep.
to turn around and interfere with that. There's also been some chemical runoff onto Doty's property from the rainwater that there are pictures of in the December 4th
And where's Doty's property?
letter. Doty's property is the one south.
To the south. That's the one that I did the survey for, lot 1-7.
It's the
Okay,
one just south of it,
1-7,
just on the
okay.
other side.
Yep, okay.
All right.
In the booklet that Rick put together for you, pages 14 and 15 is a letter, a legal opinion with regards to those turnarounds that
It's not the town legal opinion, and that's what we need.
He was the town's
he
attorney.
was the town's attorney.
Oh, he was,
Drummond and
okay.
Whitson
All right.
are municipal attorneys.
Okay, okay,
So-
He
sorry.
was the town's attorney.
Okay.
So I just, you,
Where did you say that letter was?
it's pages 14 and 15.
But the
in
pages aren't numbered in there.
Oh, well, kind of
If
at
you,
the
if you
bottom,
go
they're
past the
blue.
yellow tab, if you go past the yellow tab, they are numbered, because those are the exhibits.
I just thought
Oh.
that might, he did a very
Not
good job
for
of
us, but-
explaining it.
There's just too much involved here. And
Thank you.
the amount of information that you have provided us with is way beyond what I can consume in a day or two. So I need some time to do this, and that's why I'm suggesting that we not make a decision tonight, because I don't think we're ready to.
You're
And-
correct.
And I think we need to continue this so that we can get the information that we need in order to make an educated decision. Go ahead.
One more question, sorry. You said there was chemical runoff. Where was this chemical runoff from?
The chemical runoff came,
You talking about the trucks?
no,
No.
Not the microphone, sir. Sorry. It's
Sorry.
just so the folks at home can participate.
Rick, just sit at the table and describe it to us.
the chemical
Thank you.
hi, folks at home. The chemical runoff comes on the Doty's property where
What's the source of it?
where the chemical was coming from?
Yep,
Not sure.
okay,
I personally have no knowledge of where it
Okay.
came from.
okay.
Do you know what kind of chemical?
It was,
No,
no, it wasn't analyzed. I have no
all right. That's-
legal
that-
knowledge, but
we're
there was
fine. Okay.
a,
Okay. What do you think, folks?
I concur with your suggestion, and we need some help here. Professional help, both in terms of the engineering of the water flows through there and the legal situation that we're in and what's our best out here to
All right, I'm
resolve all
gonna
this.
suggest we close
Yeah.
the public hearing at this point.
Yeah.
We've
may I just
gotten,
add one thing before you
Sure.
do? Currently, that riprap swale that's south of Star Drive
yeah,
wasn't there prior to the applicant moving in. It was,
we
it
can,
was
we
flat
can address
across.
that.
And the drainage coming from that swale ends up going onto Doty's property. The railroad's has a berm at that area.
That's a minor issue compared with all the other ones that you have raised, so,
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate your
you.
input. I appreciate the information and your wealth of information that you have provided us with. So, it's all valid, and I appreciate the effort that's going into it.
I think Mr. Moran
Well,
wanted to speak.
I'm going to close the public hearing
All right.
and allow the
Good.
applicant to come back up and speak to us.
Oh, okay. I guess, what's the difference? But, all right.
All right. I'm closing the public hearing. I'm going to invite the applicant to come back up and address anything he would like to address. Given the fact that you've heard that we're going to be taking all of this under consideration and
I
and
heard
looking at
that.
things. Yeah.
But again, I would like to at least share a perspective.
Nope, that's fine.
All right. I'm sure that Mr. Fredette could challenge all of the questions that came up relative to the engineering and the water flows, and I'm sure all of that was done professionally and correctly.
Yep.
Okay? What we're stalled on is this idea of a turnaround. That seems to be what we're stalled on, and to be honest with you, I think that's exactly the wrong thing we should be talking about right now. Because the issue that I believe was number one from the planning staff's recommendation was stormwater management. Okay? And I think that we presented a solution to the stormwater problem. Everyone has acknowledged that there's water flowing down Star Drive. Mr. Fredette talked about that. And it just comes down to the end of Star Drive. If you've been down there, you'll see that from the beginning of 20 Star Drive property, there's a 4-foot drop to the end of Star Drive, and probably a 20 or 30-foot drop from Daniel Webster Highway.
Yep.
All right, so you understand that a fraction of the water that makes it to the bottom of the hill comes from the applicant's site. And it is our plan that addresses that to the best of our abilities, is to treat it, divert it, and keep it off our neighbor's property to the best of our abilities. So, to me, that was number one. Is that the number one issue that we're here to address today?
The staff memo from last time was to basically bring the plans together to be a more complete site plan. You
Yes.
definitely have done that.
And we've done that.
Raising and solving as much of a drainage concern that you could from where we started last summer to where we are now,
Yes.
I believe has been done. At least a good faith effort has been done. I can't say that it definitely has, but as the effort has been made, you know.
We've done the best we can as far as that's concerned.
That's understood.
So in order to solve this runoff problem and this contamination issue that was alleged, we need to implement that plan, and the sooner the better, okay? My second point is that all along, I've been involved in this process and in the discussions relative to the deeds, what they contain and what they mean. And you'll see that in that 2012 letter that Mr. Kalika references, that the town attorney basically said that this was something that the town planning board and the planning department had to resolve. In 10 years, they have not been able to resolve it, but they recognized an issue even back then. I have been in touch, our attorney's been in touch with the town attorney, and I can show you a memo that I got from him that basically says that the town attorney's opinion is that it has no bearing on whether or not you should approve our plan. It is not something we can fix. It is not something we created. It is a legal issue that is best handled through the courts. This is not a court of law. All right, so all we're
Correct.
trying to do is, do we provide you with enough information to approve a change of use on this property? And is our site plan sufficient enough to allow you to approve that change of use? That's all we're asking for. This is costing the applicant tens of thousands of dollars a month, not just in additional engineering and legal expenses, but also it's harming his business because the town stay has prevented him from getting an inspection license, which is a very important part of his business. So they basically put us in limbo, and that's not fair to the applicant. It's costing money. So a further delay is not warranted. We need a decision. This could go on. We'll never resolve the issue of where the turnaround should be. All right? And I have a copy, if you want to look at it, of the planning board memo or decision from 1982, where they made it very clear they were accepting the plan for the change of the turnaround. Okay? It's in writing in your own memos. If you'd like, I'll share it with you. But again, the fact that it wasn't done properly, that there were administrative errors 40 and 50 years ago, where I'll call it lazy lawyers decided they weren't going to do enough homework to see where the easements were or what they represented, all right, and just copied the last deed, we can't fix it. There's nothing the applicant can do to fix it. So we're stuck with the problem, but it isn't our problem. We can't fix
That's
it.
understood, and we understand that.
So you can't fix it either. Maybe some attorneys and some judges can, but you're preventing an innocent party who came to this town to operate his business under good faith, okay? And you're preventing him from conducting his business the way you should. So I don't see any reason for any delays. I think you should approve the site plan because it meets all the criteria of the staff. And I think you should let him go on with his business, because you know where this is going next, I assume. We're in remand. We're going back to the court in a couple of weeks, at which time Mr. Kalika can express all of his concerns with the deeds, and the court is the right audience or environment to can really consider whether those are really important or tantamount. But as far as what we're looking for, I think we've provided it, so I think you should approve us. George, any
Well,
comments?
with regard to the engineering, it hasn't been reviewed by our staff, and I don't know how long we've had it, but,
You've had it for 3 weeks.
yeah, well.
And again, it has been reviewed by your staff, your planning board staff. And again, they've passed it
We
along
haven't
and
had-
said
we
it's
haven't had-
sufficient.
We haven't had peer review, have we?
Correct.
So we
My
need-
understanding is that even if you approve our plan today, that it is going to go out for review. It's gonna go to the building department and the fire department, and they may come back with some additional recommendations that we will include in a final plan. That's my understanding of the process. So, no, we're not done, but we've done everything we can. All right, I mean, this has been out there to your departments for 3 weeks. If they didn't comment on it, then my assumption would be they didn't have any comments. And like I said, we've worked extensively with the fire department and the building department already. We have additional renovations we'd like to make to this property, and we're hands are tied. It's not fair.
Well, I know that we, may I?
Go ahead, Neil.
I know that we got over 600 pages of testimony from the abutter, and,
I've looked at it all.
right, and I did too, so it raises some questions.
If-
And I don't believe that it's gone through peer review, and I think it would only be appropriate for them to be able to review it themselves.
Have you looked at the 600 pages?
Actually, not the last 100 and something, because,
And that's okay, because most of it's duplicate from the
okay,
previous.
yeah, but I did read the 500 pages.
You know what, I did too. And again, I
And
said
there it
this,
raises questions.
I said this at the beginning of the meeting, okay? What we were instructed to do by the court and also by the planning staff was to assume we're here brand new. We've never been before you before, that anything that was said or that was discussed or approved in June and July of last year had no bearing at all on this meeting.
We're
or
not,
this-
we're not dealing with that.
But,
I
but
refuse-
400 of those pages, of those 500, were all related to June and July. He had
What
the
I re-
verbatim.
What I read was, correct, there was some
It
testimony
was
from
junk.
there.
So it's
Disregarding that.
All Mr. Kalika's doing is trying to delay and delay and delay, and he's delayed us for 7, 8 months already, with no reason. You asked him yourself, what do you get out of it? Nothing. He has nothing to gain. Mr. Doty says he's being unfairly taken advantage of. Nobody uses that turnaround, all right? My client's been there for 8 months, okay? Every single business on Star Drive has their own parking lots and ability to turn around within their parking lots. If you would ask him, no one comes down just to turn around. It just doesn't happen. So the reality of the situation, that turnaround's not being used. It can't be used. It hasn't been used for years. Secondly, and again, if you're gonna delay us, then you should talk to the highway department, all right? Because it's my understanding that they don't even maintain that section of Star Drive. My client plows it so his trucks can get in and out, all right? Basically, the highway department has disavowed any maintenance down there. So, it's very frustrating.
I can understand that, and I can hear the frustration, and
Yeah.
So if you would approve us, it would at least get us to the point we can go back to the court and deal with all of those other issues that this body is not prepared to deal with and probably never will.
I personally am not prepared to approve this tonight. I want some more answers from community development and anyone else that we need to talk with, but I am not personally prepared to approve it tonight.
I understand.
Nor am I. I'm in agreement with you.
Again,
I hear your frustration, I understand it, I know it's been going on for a long time. I know there's some back and forth between the parties, but at this point, I'm not prepared to approve this tonight.
I'm just saying that it's not fair.
That may be true.
And I'll leave it at that, and we'll be back here as soon as you'll let us. And I
Yep.
hope that you'll have enough time to get all the facts,
Robert, when
because
can we continue this
it's
to?
not right.
Staff's recommendation was April 5th to allow you guys time to go through all that material, to allow us to now conduct a peer review of the drainage analysis, to allow us to ask legal any questions that you guys needed to have us have answered.
So the motion would be to continue to April 5th.
Can we go sooner?
Do we have time to go sooner than that?
Peer review takes minimum 10 days, that's 2 weeks out. So no, it wouldn't be complete by the time the next meeting rolls around.
All right,
I don't want to do an incomplete.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to continue to April 5th.
Second.
Barbara seconds. All in favor of continuing to April 5th?
I,
Aye. So moved, 500.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. I am now down to discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern. Robert? You have
There are
anything?
several extension request letters in your packet.
Okay.
First would be for the John Flatley Company seeking an extension for their warehouse project.
Do we need a motion for that?
Which company?
Flatley.
Flatley, for the
Oh,
warehouse
Flatley.
project.
Because they've run out of the 65 days?
That's correct. It's the 6-month conditional approval. They're still waiting on state permitting from DOT.
It's not his fault. I would move that we extend him another
Yeah.
6 months.
Do we have a second? Neil?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
We're extending his deadline for approval. They're going,
The state is holding him up.
right,
Okay.
so. All
Gentlemen,
in
could you
favor?
take your conversation out, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No,
all
no,
right.
no worries, just,
Have a good evening.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500.
I didn't hear a second.
Barb,
Barbara did, okay, thank you. Okay, the second one would be Flatley again. They had, at the same time as the warehouse was approved, the roadway, that went around the whole site over there. That site plan again also held up, same reasons. So they're seeking an extension for that approval.
I move another 6 months for that.
Barb,
Second.
all in favor? 500.
Thank you. The next one after that is a letter from Keach Nordstrom regarding the Level Acres lot line adjustment project that was done. That one is being held up because of easement language. We're still trying to work out the legalities of all that.
Move 6 months.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. 5-0.
Thank you. And the last one is the 50 Robert Milligan Warehouse Distribution Center project. They
The gravel
also
pit.
are, yep, they're looking for more time to complete those conditions as well.
Gravel.
Right off the highway. Down the end of Milligan Drive.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The
All right,
gravel
no,
pit.
give them 6 months. too.
Yep.
Yeah.
5-0.
I moved, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
So you're catching on. You're catching on quick. Do
I
we
have
have
no
minutes?
other items personally to discuss.
Yeah. The minutes for the
Approval of minutes for February 15th.
February 15th.
I think, Neil,
Sorry. No, I'm fine.
okay.
I'm just so.
Yep.
I'll accept the motion to approve as distributed.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
401.
I'll keep all my papers.
Move we adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. You're getting good at this second thing.
Any other things for discussion here? Yeah?
No,
She already asked that, yeah.
we're done.
Well, you can probably sneak it in if you.
What do you want?
No, it's just, nothing. I
Did-
already kind of brought it up with them.
Did the motion to adjourn already take place?
Yes,
Who made it, who
I didn't hear
seconded
it. I didn't vote on it.
you abstained.
Okay, I'll make it up.
I think everybody's in agreement.
I think they wanna just get out of here, they don't,
I think.
Not really.
Yeah.
Was it like the snowbank?
Bob company needs to check
well, the snow piles, yeah, what happened?
themselves regarding